The one where you be kulu never leave it out. Got it up, but you still have to go dig it out. Mama go and ban your belly and leave it out. People in a car meal, them have to stick it out, stand still. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands spill? Ooh, the whole place in a standstill. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands spill? Ooh. Turn to the hills for them can't take it vibe, yeah. Can't take it suffering from the street side, yeah. So enough seed but it hard to survive, yeah. Can't find money if you buy fertilizer. Skillful man a pick a skill like MacGyver. Long fingernail a pick a ton screwdriver. Hungry make you swallow your pride with saliva. In a them your hard time, yeah. And I just stand still. Ooh. It's just yes, so. I just so.
Sometimes you gotta pull it from the top. It's Chesedek, ladies and gentlemen. It's called Standstill. From his latest album, Hello Africa. It's a big tune, it's a big album, it's a big artist.
The one where you be kulu never give it out. Got it up, but you still have to go dig it out. Mama go and ban your belly and leave it out. People in a car meal, them have to stick it out, stand still. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands spill? Ooh,
gotta lodge up everybody listening in.
The whole place in a standstill.
My YouTubers.
Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands spill? Ooh,
Facebook fam.
Ooh. Turn to the hills for them can't take it vibe, yeah. Can't take it suffering from the street side, yeah. So enough seed but it hard to survive, yeah. Can't find money if you buy for.
Hey Marlene.
Skillful man a pick a skill like MacGyver. Long fingernail a pick a ton screwdriver. Hungry make you swallow your pride with saliva. In a them your hard time, yeah. When I just stand still. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands still?
It's a dope album courtesy of Tad's Records.
Ooh, the whole place in a standstill.
Hey Rosie.
Nothing not turn. How you get your hands?
Got a special one for you tonight, trust me.
Some of them hide them not pass ya no more. For the way them is to hide them can't floss ya no more. The big man run away and gone weapon tour. For them no comfortable, them life no secure. Too much hungry dog on the street they are cruel. Anything where them find scrap metal or coal. No matter how much policeman patrol, construction site them gone with the payroll. Politicians have the people under control. For them not vote already and them still unsure. No matter how them ball Babylon and ignore or just more separation down on the poor. This a standstill. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands still? Ooh, the whole place in a standstill. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands still? Ooh. In times like these, when things get tougher, who don't have no links with the food I go suffer. Man, me a pick up the truth, me no scare, me no stutter. Some keep silent cause them bread done butter. From the head of the stream straight down to the gutter. No cash flow, them pull down the shut.
Blessings to the car.
Give up your amphibia.
Grab yourself a glass of something.
I cut buckle cause him
kick your feet up.
but this a standstill. Ooh,
We getting in, alright?
not turn.
Just about that time.
Ooh, the whole place in a standstill. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands still? Ooh, turn to the hills for them can't take it.
My favorite roots reggae album for 2020.
The street side, yeah. So enough
Hello Africa.
and to survive, yeah. Can't find money if you buy fertilizer. Skillful man a figure skill.
You can watch it right here, Tony.
God yell a figure ton screwdriver. Hungry make you swallow your pride with salad.
Blessings of belated birthday love, alright?
Yeah, man I just stand still. Ooh, nothing not turn. How you get your hands split?
We'll squeeze one more, then we're gonna get into it, alright?
Ooh,
Brand spanking new joint from Sanchez.
stand still. Ooh,
Comes to you courtesy of B Will Entertainment.
not turn. How you get your hands?
Super Twitch.
Ooh, the whole place in a standstill. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, listen.
time, still I didn't make it. Everything I tried to do seemed to go wrong. It seems I've done something wrong while they're trying to keep me down. But who God bless, no man curse. And God, I'm not the worst. But I must come one day. But I must come, yes. But I must come one day. But I must come. Well, I've been trying a long, long time, but I can't make it. No one to give me a helping hand. They only try to keep you down. Who God bless, no one cares. Thank God I'm not the way. Oh, my people, can't you see? They're trying to take advantage of me. Then I must come.
The golden voice of Sanchez.
Must come, well. Then I must come one day. Then I must come.
Hey, Mish, how you doing?
You can't come in. Oh, no. Yes, they trying to take advantage of me. Oh. Well, I've been trying a long, long time, but I can't make it. Everything I try to do seems to go wrong.
Hey, Pauline.
It seems I've done something wrong while they're trying to keep me.
I detect some trouble in the building.
God bless, no one can.
Some trouble's lounging around.
God, I'm not the
I know it is Robinson, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Robinson.
man.
Trouble, yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, my brother.
Then I must come.
Hey, Janet. How you doing?
They can come in. Then I must come. Then I must come. Yeah. Then I must come one day. It will come.
Hey, Shelly Ann.
It will come.
It's Princess Myra. Large up, my brother.
This is Wayne want the same J code. Legal businessman. Bang, bang, boom.
I mean say this a protege, homegrown with G Cola, what you say, we make them know what reggae music we a play, Hey, this is Protege, the one and only representing for G Cola, you know. Check it. He's out.
And we said them not got no style like we. G Cole, them not got no style like we. None of them no wicked, no wild like we. Accurate. Kabaka Pyramid representing for the #1 selector and radio host. It's all about G Cole. Keep it locked. Accurate.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl Kalia. I'm hanging out with your boy G Cole on the Homegrown Show.
Yes. Welcome one and all. It is Homegrown with Chico coming to the massive and crew across the globe. Live. Got to big up everybody watching in on Jamaicans.com. Got to large up everybody listening in on the radio. Got to list up that's everybody. I'm so grateful for the gift of technology, making the world so much smaller, bringing us so much closer so we can have a vibe and have a convo, all right? All kind of great things that we got to talk about, and we do it right here, okay? Big up everybody watching on YouTube. Large up the YouTube people. Sometimes y'all feel like we're leaving out, but ain't none of that, all right? YouTube massive. Big up on yourself, all right? Darn, guess what? I left my lighter, yo. I always have my lighter with me, so when we have big tunes with us, run up the thing, you know what I mean? But listen, I got to give some shout-outs as always. Much love. What said Robert said there, sing off. Yeah, something up. Yeah, something about that. Yeah, if you stop it. Here's the deal. Thank you. Big up. Much respect. Large up. Appreciation. All that. All right? From my essential workers, they call them, right? My frontline people. All those people putting it on the line for us, doing what they got to do to keep us safe. My nurses, my doctors, all right? Paramedics, first responders, everybody, all my healthcare professionals. Can't mention everybody, y'all, just because I don't know the field like that. You know what I mean? But of course, my x-ray techs, radiology techs, everybody. Firefighters, everybody. The good. The prefix here is good. The good law enforcement professionals, all right? We got a couple on the way, but you know, that's a different show. But for the good law enforcement professionals, much love. We appreciate y'all big time. All right, all the educators out there, social workers, everybody, just putting in the good work for us. We appreciate you. It doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated. We got you. All right. I want to pick up also all the barbershops out there, keeping people looking fly. You know what I mean? The beauty salons doing what they do. Listen, when COVID just started, people couldn't get their look on or whatever the case may be. A lot of people who used to look like Janet Jackson came out looking like Freddie Jackson. So, you know what I mean? Come out looking like Stoney Jackson and all kind of things like those. But guess what? Y'all came back, put it together, make it work. And everybody's good. Everybody's fly. Everybody's beautiful. Everybody's sexy again. I appreciate y'all big time. All right. The masks are causing a problem. Not for health. We want you to wear the mask. All right. Don't be an ass. Wear that mask. I strongly suggest you do. But I'm gonna tell you something. I ain't single, so I ain't got these problems. But for you single people out there trying to flirt and you don't know what's under the mask, boy. You don't know what's under the mask. I'm just saying. All right. Mariah might not be. Anyways, so listen, we got a vibe for you this evening. It is Grammy season. All right. It is. Hey, Avril, what you mean? Julian, what's going on? Good night. We got a large amount. Let me tell you something. Nurses, doctors, all those people, all right? We can't question why people do what they do, but, you know, the nobility ain't up to us to question. I mean, there's higher powers at work. But regardless of what you think, people are out there putting it on the line for us. Not you. Your bodyguard might not like you, but he protects you, right? We don't ask no questions. You sign up for the job. It's a tough one, sometimes a thankless job, but you do it, and I appreciate it. All right? Child care providers. All those people out there that got to deal with your crazy kids. Remember, all of you people think your kids were perfect and they were nice and they were sweet. Little Timmy, all right? Little Timmy's a demon, right? How did you find out? When you had to take care of him, when he was home for the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Little Timmy, you were signing him up for adoption. Remember? I remember. Little Timmy's a problem. So make sure that when you go to school right now, you give maximum love and respect to the teachers, putting up with your children that you have been doing a terrible job with at home. You know what I mean? But that's the thing, though. The views expressed by G. Cole does not represent those of Jamaicans.com. It don't represent those of between you and me. Don't even represent those of Homegrown with G. Cole. I'm going to rogue tonight. It's Grammy season, all right? It's Grammy season, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, Jamaican music lovers have always had a rough, rocky relationship with the Grammys. We're going to talk about it. Sometimes we have conversations with people not qualified to have the conversation with. Tonight is a little different. Let's slide into something right about now. Jay Will says, Ja is real. My guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is the Stan Evans Smith. You see it scrolling down the bottom of the screen. You see the thing I'm scrolling on the bottom of the screen, not you. Mr. Sidney White is here. I'm going to make sure I get their lighting correct because I know they got fans in these streets and you fans are a little picky. I don't want them on them lighting the proper and you make G Cole in my inbox or you make the star and it look like it's happened before, right? It's happened.
It's real, and I can feel him in this air I breathe.
What going, Polly?
He's always
Jamila.
here. Oh,
It's about time to get the convo going, not you.
My job is real.
But anytime you're about to have a conversation, get into something deep,
I can feel him in this air I breathe.
the process is you drop a righteous tune before it. You know what I mean? It sets the mood. It sets the mood.
You everywhere. So from the righteous parts, I really try not to drift. Try not to be misled by illusions and myths from the Babylon. Dirty system we have to drift. Try to captivate my mind with tricks and gimmicks. Them try to say Jah dead and we know nothing no go so. Them heaven in the sky and we know.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to bring you on the forefront right about now. Put on pants, all right?
Yes, that's how we go.
They're going to be able to see you.
Santa Diana, see him, so we go. So why in this beautiful earth they fight a war? Is it your position that they are fighting for? Or is it that they want with me a buckle on their shelf? A raps and push up play the song, you know, and nothing else. My job is free, and I can feel it in this air.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a nice one for you today. And when I say a nice one, I mean a really, 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 really nice one. One that I'm looking forward to, been looking forward to. You know, we have these conversations ever so often. If you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. Every Grammy season, we have the convo, all right? And I titled it, of course, Jamaica. Jamaicans, lovers of Jamaican music and the culture, right? And I put it that way because, listen, man, like some great one said years ago, if we wanted to keep it to ourselves, we should have never let it out again, right? So right now it's world music, everybody's listening to it. But the world is not don't have the universal beef with the Grammys. It's us, all right? So you see a little banner running under the bottom there, so I'm gonna try to catch it. It's moving a little fast, but I'm old, so you know what I mean? So I'm gonna catch it. I'm gonna catch it in between, all right? Tonight's guest, Mr. Sidney White, the OG, all right? PhD for NPR. And if I start using little syllables, you know he's up there, you know what I mean? You know he knows things, all right? Little abbreviations, he knows stuff, all right? He's an executive and a creator for Kingston 12, the website and digital radio. He knows stuff, all right? We got Mr. Stan Evans Smith on here. Anytime you throw 3 names out there, you know you the man, all right? All right, musical editor for Jamaicans.com. I'm afraid these microphones up and I say, gentlemen, welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. It's great to be here, man.
Stan, what going on? You can't hear me?
Thank you very much, Rico. I'm here. And it's a pleasure being here. Rico, like what you do and enjoy. It was nice to sit back and have a conversation.
The pleasure is indeed mine. The pleasure is indeed mine. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have conversations, and you always hear me say this on the program, that I love having conversations that when I'm done having the convo, I feel more enlightened, I feel smarter than when I started out. You know what I mean? I've had many conversations that when I was done, I felt dumber than when I started the conversation. I lost brain cells in the convo. So sometimes I got to have the convos with the right people. And of course, when we're talking about topics like the Grammys, that we can't just start to the person who did get nominated and never win. We can't just start to the person who never get nominated at all and still beat. We can't just start to the person who buy a CD and want them artists win and them artists no win yet. It gets cold. You know what I mean? I'm gonna drop it out there, and I'm starting with you, Sidney. This Grammy thing goes way back, all right? The first Grammy winner is Black Uhuru.
Can you take your volume down a little bit? The music.
Oh, the music's my bad.
Music.
I'm enjoying the music so much, man. My bad.
Go ahead and repeat your question now.
Oh, we're still now. Is that better? Is that better?
Heart of gold.
I know a star. All this time I thought you were talking cool now, man. No one, I'm not for sure no more. So we Grammy days and the reggae industry and reggae artists and stuff like that. We're talking back to Black Uhuru from the beginning, right?
1985, I believe.
1985, right? The album Anthem. And we've been a little aggravated ever since, you know, sometimes rightfully so, sometimes not. But I'm going to start by saying this. What does being known as the Grammy Award winning, and we're going to keep it reggae for right now, not international sphere, R&B, all the other genres. What's the major difference in your opinion, being known as not just John Brown, the dope artist, but the Grammy Award winning John Brown, reggae artist?
I'm still struggling to try to figure what it means for a reggae artist. It's like, for me, I have always compared it, you work in Hollywood, but when you leave work, you leave at the back door. We're 35 years and we're still backstage. I'm not sure if it's helping us, if we're going anywhere with it. You know, I'm in the school now that says it's time to create, and a lot of people are doing it. I watched the British Black Music Award this year, and I was proud of the guys because at some point you say, you know what, it's not working for me. So it's time for me to elevate and to do my own thing. That's where I am with the Grammys, quite frankly.
Wow.
And in the jazz, I work with several jazz stations. When I talk to jazz artists and jazz stations, they're thinking the same way.
Wow. Stan, in your opinion, what do you think the difference really is?
I think the big problem is the reggae Grammy started out at the point where Marley and the rest and his generation wanted to have the music institution and become recognized, not just popular, because when you pull in 120,000 people in one concert by yourself, it's popular. But what has happened, unfortunately, is as time has gone, and as Sidney rightly said, 35 years later, we're backstage. Well, the biggest problem for most people is that they want to see the presentation live, and it wouldn't hurt if a reggae artist was able to perform a popular song. And that seemed to be a big problem with it. A lot of the artists don't even bother to show up the Grammys anymore. Some do, but some don't. So I think that there is clearly an issue here where that is concerned. I think the other side of that is that what I would love to see in Jamaica is that they start having an award show to honor it. I'm seeing award shows around the world. I'm seeing and Martin's Award, for example, IRAMA. It's been going on for 35, almost 40 years, and he's been able to maintain it. They've had the fits and starts. However, that being said, let me just point out something. I had a discussion with Kevin Jackson and a few others today. Buju Banton, one of the nominees, Upside Down. He won the MOBO. He's up for the NAACP Image Award for the tune Blessed, He and Coffee. And he's also up for the Grammys. So if what it means to Buju Banton, probably the artist that has the most celebrated career with respect to his album this year in those forums. So to that end, it helps, it adds to the MOBO that he got and his nomination for the NAACP Image Award. And this is why it's different, G. Cole. The only other person who ever got a nomination in reggae for the NAACP was Judy Morton in 1987 for Working Wonders. She was beaten by Anita Baker, but this is the second time. And now you have multiple folks doing it. You have Skip being nominated, Coffee for nominated, and Coffee and Buju for Blessed. So also let's just mention before we go any further that Coffee is doing a hell of a job. If Buju wins a Grammy, she gets a Grammy. She's on the album. If Buju wins the NAACP, she gets it also because she's on the remix. So at that level, it is good. But to Sydney, I think touched the kernel of the problem. It has just not translated into what it should be for a reggae artist.
Okay. I've had the conversation with a couple of people who have won, a couple of people who have not won, some people who have been nominated, and some people who have not. As far as the Grammys go, you know, it depends on who you're having a conversation with. And I'm talking about in terms of the artists now. Outside of a Barris or so forth, who, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, I don't think Barris got nominated but once for Music Is Life, right? And Barris is one of the best ever. So realistically speaking, I don't know if Barris is sitting down really worried too much about the Grammys. But when I talk to the artists themselves, you know, the winners have a different tone versus those people who have never won, and we always wonder if it translates into dollars and cents. Does it translate into more recognition? And what I get from some people pretty much is that it actually does. It actually does. But of course, it's a total different sentiment from those who, like I said, have won versus those who have not. Let's talk about Buju Banton right now. Buju's already won. He's up for, you said he won the IRAMA. We have the MOBO and these other awards. Realistically speaking,
no, he won the MOBO.
The MOBO is what he won.
The MOBO for 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, this year. This past.
And it's a dope album, so deserving of the win. One question I have pretty much is this: do we really put, or are we still putting more value on the Grammys when we say, okay, we got the MOBOs, we got the IRAMA? I mean, behind closed doors, if you said to our artist, say, listen, you got the option of one of these three. You know, I got some political push, I got some clout, I could get you one of these. Which one do you think they're going to say? I think they're going to say the Grammys, but what do you guys think, Sydney?
I would love to see an award that we can put all our chips in, meaning marketing, promotion, artists that we own. Because the Grammys is going to be the Grammys,
right?
You know, if you look at the Oscars, if you see how many different awards now they are, and so the Oscars doesn't have the same kind of significance as it once had, because artists realize, you know, I work hard. This is my best work, but I never get nominated because if you don't, as you must know, if you don't have the marketing,
right,
and the label behind you, you forget it. Every year, some of the best albums never get nominated.
Right. Now, Stan. Here's the thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, my sense of that is that they're twofold. If you're talking on the American mainstream front, because as I look at Coffee is having an uninterrupted run from she won year before last.
Right.
And she is now up for it again. She's still in the mainstream. She's getting a lot of streams. So at that level, does the Grammy help? It certainly doesn't hurt, because Grammy winning artists on the major platform. But again, we still come back to that question of, does it translate into more sales, unit sales, streams, digital downloads? And now we're back to vinyl. Does it? The answer, and that part of it, what does it? Well, we know, but normally what happens with a Grammy is, okay, so you win, and your price for your show goes up.
Right.
And in the early goings, that was the case. No, it is not the case. And I'm not using the pandemic as the reason why it's not the case, because there's nobody touring. I am, in fact, saying that it is just not the case that, the paradigm of touring has changed, mind you, but it just hasn't panned out at all. And that is really where we are now.
Let me just add to that. Buju Banton album from, I don't know when they did it, just hit 1 million. Just in the
a million what? Streams or say it's not sales?
Sales, yes.
So the album Upside Down 2020 has gone platinum?
Hold on, Sydney. He's talking still. No, he's talking Till Shiloh.
Till Shiloh.
Oh, okay.
My question is, how many years did that take?
Well, here's the deal. You know what? I like the fact that I like the fact that you asked that question. But here's the thing, though. It's hitting 1 million. It's like putting out any product. After a while, just off us regular sales alone, you're gonna hit certain numbers. It don't mean that that million CD may just be $2 for Buju, because it was at $999.99 for the last 10 years. But when we talk about the artistry, Tony says no, it doesn't. When we talk about the artistry of these things, I wonder now if the biggest question is, one, is the best music getting recognized for the Grammy versus what the worth of the Grammy is. I'll take it back to 2 years ago, 2 or 3. That was a year when Agent Sasco dropped Hope River, right? That year, Alba Rosie had Unbreakable out. Dennis Brown, Tracks of Life by King Jammies, and a couple of others, right? Now, to me, that was one of the strongest years, and I still put I'll still put my heart behind saying Unbreakable by Alba Rosie was a masterpiece. And that, to me, if you're going on the merit of the body of the work, that's the winner right there, right? But what we're looking at is something called politics, right?
It never even got mentioned.
It never got nominated, period. Agent Sasco didn't get nominated, period, and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? But that little thing called politics, right? And when we talk about politics, it's not about the political part of what's in or what's out. It's about the campaigning aspect of politics. Some very talented and probably ethical people have political aspirations, but they don't have the finances to rack up them campaigns, so you never hear of them.
Precisely.
And it's kind of the same thing with the Grammys. What's your view on that, starting with you, Sydney?
This year, you could say the same thing for Therapy from Lyde Brown. Lyde Brown comes from England. Okay. And to me, what was one of the best albums that we've had in about 5 years. But it never even got mentioned. And if you don't have the marketing, if you don't have the team behind you, it just doesn't happen for you. I mean, Shaggy got 2 years ago with because he was teamed with Sting,
right? And
the record label put all the effort behind the album,
right?
But if you don't have that, there's no chance.
How you feeling about that, Stan? Did I lose you, Stan?
Is it still?
Your audio is out. We're having some buffering. Is it that winter storm?
I think a big part of that whole scenario, it has to do with the fact that a lot of the artists. No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me, Sydney?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, they're not hearing me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not sure what's going on here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Hello?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm saying the issue with that really has to do. The issue with that really has to do with a couple of things. You're talking about the politics of it. I tend to like to relate the story of the album. I wrote the line for Dennis Brown's second album, that when he died, which was Let Me Be the One. I was working on that album. All right. Working on that album, and the producer flew to LA and did the politicking. The album made it from the pile into the final 5. So that's part of it. That you have to have a team to market you, but you also have to present your product to the people who vote. Because if they don't know you, and much is that it has been a Marley thing, but it also, Marley is one of the biggest brands in music, and it's certainly the biggest brand in reggae, so people know it. And a big part of the problem is a lot of our acts do not know how to access the Grammy. I think some of the greatest reggae music ever made comes out of England, but unless it comes through a label in the United States, it is just not going to see the light of day. And Sydney's right about the album, the Lloyd Brown album he's talking about. I can think of a few more. So that really, J. Cole, is the problem, that there is just no way to all together where people, essential clearinghouse where you can say, okay, if we had a format where music was played from around the world in the United States, and then the reggae charts reflected it on Billboard or our stations, if we had that type of a format where it didn't matter where the music came from, as long as it was reggae music and it fit the criteria, because for the Grammy it has to be 51% reggae. As long as that is the case and the resonates with the public, that's a broken system that needs to be fixed.
Is that still true though? Does the album have to be 51% reggae?
Can you hear me, G. Cole?
Yep.
I think I've lost.
No, man, I can't hear. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Your audio is buffering, but I'm not sure what exactly you're using. What device are you on?
Me?
No, Stan.
Nobody. Sydney, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, man, we're hearing you clear enough.
It seems. It says everyone is seeing and hearing me, but I'm cool at all.
Can you hear me okay, Sydney?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Well, let me ask you this while Stan does the technical stuff.
G. Cole?
I'm back. I'm here. So here's the thing, Stan. I always, when it comes to any conversation,
that is the criteria.
How do you explain Skip's album this year?
I'm on my desktop.
That Skip convo was, I know it was coming. No.
I love the album though. I love the album, but if it's a 51%, I don't know how you explain that.
And I hear you.
I didn't realize
No. Here's a true question about that. Now, again, reality versus rationality.
Can you hear me, G Cole?
I can. You are behind. You are very delayed. So you are way behind. I think that's what the issue is. Am I correct, Sydney?
Yes.
That has been. That I'm not hearing you at all. Whoever should hear.
No, we're hearing you. It's just that you're very delayed. You're very delayed. That's what it is.
Not sure now. Oh, I'm coming in. Okay.
You wanna reboot
right,
and come back in?
Continue.
Okay. So Sydney,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the
yeah.
So reboot and come back in. Sydney,
mm-hmm.
I'm gonna just have Stan reboot and come back in.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, reality versus rationality. We've got a lot of people pumping out music. Reggae is one of those genres that puts out more product than most other genres on a daily basis, right? Yeah. So the reality of it is this: not everything can get heard. And if every single artist had the capability of getting their work heard, then there'd never be a Grammy Award show, because it would be a 10 million songs, 10 million albums that they would have to sift through. So we won't ever get to really get away from the whole concept of, okay, your favorite artist or maybe your favorite album getting recognized. My true question regarding that, though, is, are we oftentimes taking a purist approach in terms of, is it really the best work or is it our favorite work? Because the reason why I use the theme and the topic that we've had a rocky relationship is that no matter who wins, and there have been many a times that I've disagreed with it, but it is what it is. But no matter who wins, there's always some disgruntlement.
Yeah, it's not just reggae. It's across the music here. R&B has the same challenge. Mm-hmm. Jazz has the same challenge. There is a small group of people who makes the decision.
Right.
And they make, I used this example the other day when I spoke to Stan. I'm on a panel mm-hmm. making grants for television productions. Mm-hmm. Okay. You bring me a producer that I know. Mm-hmm. Bring me somebody with a name, at least that I can look up.
Right.
Because if I don't have that, I can't put $500,000 into this product.
Right.
It's just a reality.
Right.
So in the music, it's not accident when Shaggy goes into a label and they get Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who had never done reggae before, mm-hmm. to produce tracks on his album.
Right.
There's a reason for that.
Right.
And so sometimes if you want to be if nomination is your goal, then you might have to bring in those kinds of people.
Right.
Names that they know, names that have won Grammys in the past.
Right.
The other side, the other side of it is the way Marley looked at it. Mm-hmm. And probably Burris would. I continue to write good lyrics, create a great music, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
It's amazing. It's amazing whenever we can't have our Grammy conversation without the word Marley coming up, right? I've always said this jokingly, but dead serious. I'd love to have worked that hard and have done that well, that whatever it is that my kids do thereafter, they benefit from that. But the crazy thing is, we talk about somebody who's never won a Grammy himself, not even posthumously.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? The one time that he probably won a Grammy technically is as a feature on his son's album, right? So you're talking about somebody that has never won a Grammy. But
let me just add to this, that mm-hmm. over the last 10 years, mm-hmm. at least 8 of the 10 years, he has had the most record sales.
Which ultimately tells us that the sales ain't what they're looking for, right? So it's amazing. And again, that's why I think this conversation will go on till the end of time. I'm gonna try to bring Stan back in and see if he's Good to go. Stan, can you hear us?
Am I on? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? On.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
And I mean, I don't want your fans to get upset because I know you have fans out here, and the fans want to see.
I can hear you both.
Okay. So we're still diving into this topic.
And see me, it's fine.
Let me ask you this though, Stan. Right? Is there such a thing as, from a musical standpoint, right? Because again, I hate this word, but I'm gonna toss this word in there. I fear outcome when it comes to the Grammy. Do you think we'll ever see that day when when we stand behind the winner of the Grammy and say, "Yeah, man, that's the deserving winner"?
Not to seem like I'm ducking the question, but that depends on who says that. In all fairness, I think because the way the Grammy is set up, you're always going to have controversy. And this is not just regular, because the person who was in charge, the lady that resigned last year, talked about the dysfunctionality of the Grammys and probably got her fired. And of course, we've heard over the years the Kanye West and a bunch of others who have actually complained. I mean, hip hop artists are complaining, R&B artists are complaining. Everybody's complaining about the process. And I think that's where the problem lies. And to Sydney's point again, it has lost some of its prestige, primary reason, because people are looking at it and saying, wait a minute, how did this person beat this person? And he had the song, and people start thinking it's politics. So the short answer to your question is probably not. You're not going to have a point where you're going to have a unanimity on is this the person who's supposed to win, or is this the best one, or is this the Grammy nominee? You're always going to have those questions until that particular system is fixed. You know,
right?
And fixing the system, quite frankly, is there a way to open so that they open up the process itself, so that there are more people in the room, there are more voices in the room.
Right. More opinions.
Which is kind of what the Oscar is talking about doing now, because they're getting serious competition from the other awards now.
Right. Well, but here's the thing, though. So let's talk about the other awards musically. Is when we see the MOBA awards,
I think
are we feeling more confident than those?
Of the Grammys also had to do with. I think that because it's the only game in town in London, and people are, I don't hear that much controversy around it coming back. But I think here, because you have the VMAs, the American Music Awards, you have Billboard Awards, you have the Soul Train, there are a number of awards that you have that in some ways may end up diluting the primacy of the Grammys. Because when I remember the 70s, all you had was the Grammys and the American Music Award.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, all of these awards started popping up. And then things had to change. And people who were getting left out, as you broaden the tent, then you started to hear a lot more. But I think it was inevitable that the Grammys would lose some of its sting, so to speak, or its appeal, because if you have competition, and it's not like the VMAs and Billboard Awards and Soul Train Awards and all those other awards were necessarily bad awards. They were on par. So if you didn't get a Grammy, you got an American Music Award. If you didn't get an American Music Award, if you're an R&B artist or a hip hop artist, you may get a Soul Train Award. So that dilutes the significance and I guess the importance. You know, but by and large, I think we need really seriously take a look at what is across the spectrum. But I think the Grammys do need to be reformed. You know, and it doesn't carry with reggae artists.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think then, based upon what you just said, Stan, that the number of genre that the Grammys try to tackle, it poses a challenge for them?
It's too much?
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't.
The fact that they have to broadcast a whole wait a minute. Here's why I'm going to say that. I think everybody wants their music to be in prime time. And and as soon as a music loses its relevance, it gets done before the broadcast. So in a lot of people's reggae is also that a lot of people's view then your music isn't as important as it should be. Some people are getting the limelight and you're in the backstage area. So I think it's not something I've talked to reggae artists about or other artists about, but I suspect it may be problematic. But G. Cole, you had something else to add to that.
Here's why I don't see it that way, is because and going back to Sydney earlier when we talk about what translates into most of the genres that you do see televised, and again, that's another thing too. We're talking two different things now. Is it a situation where our gripe is that it's not televised, or our gripe is that it's not done correctly? You know what I mean? So we have two different avenues, which we will go down tonight. But as far as the different genres of music, those genres have fan bases that spend money and support. So those, even bluegrass, I didn't know what bluegrass is until after watching the Grammys, right? And then you have the Latin Awards, and you have all kind of different genres that came out. And when you do the research on these genres, they may not be the ones that we subscribe to and we're dialed into, but they have fan base and they generate revenue. So, I think one of the major issues is when it comes to reggae music, because reggae music it's us. R&B is not America. R&B is R&B. They've got R&B, they got hip hop, they got whatever. Reggae music is coming from our soul. It's the voice of the people. This is how we communicate. This is how we got the news across, right? It speaks to what's going on in the community. And then, of course, over time, it became commercialized. So all of us as Jamaicans and people of the culture, we feel a part ownership of the genre, right? So that means whatever goes on, we're gonna we give our opinion on it and so forth. But at the end of the day, reggae music services a market that doesn't buy it, right? So it doesn't have any capital behind it. Just like many other businesses out there that, people love it. They got the hood celebrity status, but no money's being generated. So it doesn't have a platform upon which to expand and broadcast to the masses. I think that is the biggest thing why reggae music is not on the forefront, because it is not the most commercial in terms of generating revenue.
And in addition to that, in terms of formatting, there is no reggae music format. They have reggaeton before they have reggae. There's another genre called Americana, which suffer the same challenges like reggae, although it's a mid-America format. But they don't, just like you just said, they don't have the capital. And the last time I looked, there were like 33 stations in the country that had an Americana format.
But none with reggae.
No, there's no reggae.
And when we say none, we mean so no people understand.
24/7.
No major, no mainstream formats for reggae music. And if you do find,
let's just say legacy stations.
Right. And if you find something, it's going to be 2 hours in the wee hours of the morning when nobody's listening. You know what I mean? And even that we're being denied. Stan, how you feeling about that?
My sense of that, and I agree with you that the fact that they don't sell units hurts. I'm had mainstream stations, and if you had stations on a regular basis outside of the mall is Jimmy Cliffs and Third World and so forth, which is usually nostalgia more so than the latest hits. Then you do have that problem. Because money talks, and because this is a business and money does talk. And I will agree. This is something Sid and I talk about because it's his area of expertise. How do you get mainstream, get a format that can generate where record buying public? Because one of the big problems with our community is that we don't buy our own music. We love it, we dance it, we bootleg it, but we don't buy it. So I don't know what the solution is to that particular problem, but that is a big part of it. Because until I think of Shaggy's "It Was Me," if you go look at the record, it's going to say it was marketed as a pop tune because they had no infrastructure in the label where reggae is concerned, and most labels don't have it. So there's nothing to promote reggae because the kind of sales and financial returns for the infrastructure to promote it. So it still becomes a problem. What has marveled me, and as a former publicist, I remember when I was doing some Labor Day things with Air Jamaica, and I sat on a float and looked one end of Eastern Parkway to, and I saw pretty much more than about 500,000 people. And the first thing, obviously, as a publicist in my head was the artists I'm working with. Could I get at least half these people to buy? How do I get half of these people to buy my artist's tune? That's what I was thinking. How do you translate that? We haven't figured out that part of it yet. How do you translate into the big market that reggae has? Because concerts weren't suffering. You go packed with people. So why aren't people buying the music? Why isn't it reflected on SoundScan and Billboard? Why is it not reflected in charts? That's really my question. How does that disconnect connect, so to speak? It just stays within the ethnic echo chamber, if you want to call it that.
Well, some of that's culture. Some of that is culture. Let me take a second to big up the masses. Stacey, how are you? Sylvia, Hope, all going. Karen, Katie, Polly, Tony Carr. I said Tony Carr said here, the people who make the financial decisions on the Grammy had no idea of what and who is in reggae. That's for sure. This info is from an insider whose name will not say. Tony, email me the thing, man. I'll say it on your behalf. And Tony says, of course, it is not done correctly. Here's the thing. All facts. All facts. But I think a lot of times what we're doing pretty much is, I wonder, do we put the cart before the horse? Because we talk about not having clear channel stations and not having outlets that are mainstream, but most of the outlets that are mainstream are playing the music that sells. I guess what we need to do pretty much is try to get a way to make that music sell first, and then it'll make its way onto mainstream, versus thinking that, okay, well, let's put it on radio and radio is going to make it sell. Does that format work? Yes. Or does that format work? No.
Well, here's the thing. We're at a crossroad. Mm-hmm. In the radio business,
right?
Where John Malone just purchased Clear Channel. Well, it used to be Clear Channel, iHeartRadio, because they were $23 billion in the red.
Right.
Okay. The reality is that the mainstream radio, or legacy radio, as I like to call it, are having difficult time now meeting what we call in the industry covenants.
Yep.
Meaning, the money you got to pay back to the bank. And so they looking from their side, what they're saying, I like this music, but I can't take a chance on it.
Right.
Because I've got to make sure I maximize audience.
Right.
If I put it on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm dead. Okay? Because my program director is going to come running through the door.
Yep.
That's reality. We're at a crossroad that I said earlier now, because digital radio and digital broadcasting has really kind of made a lot of this, the playing field a little bit even.
Right.
Every legacy station now is multiplexing to at least 3 or 4 stations.
Yep. And
now they can have a format on one station that they can take chance with. That's what we did down in Tampa.
Right.
We built a format called Radio 2000, where we put everything in it, because that was a radio station that was targeted at 18 to 39.
Right.
Okay. But you're going to start seeing more of that now, because we've got more channels than we know what to do with.
Well, here's a question with regard to that now, Sydney. Let's say we do see more of that, and that does become the norm, and that does become the way. Is that going to translate now into any more accuracy when it comes to our Grammy winners or nominees?
Not necessarily, but I'm not sure if the Grammy will be that relevant in that digital space. I'm not sure. I think right now it's losing its relevance, quite frankly.
Right.
When your program directors don't look to see what get Grammy-nominated in order to play it.
Right.
They look at the chart that's put out by All Access.
Right.
You see, and so that's where we are. And I think as time go by, you're going to see the Grammys start becoming far less significant in terms of getting artists out there. As long as the artists continue to do what they do, great music, great lyrics, I think that will take care of it.
But here's what I think of when it comes to. Can you hear us, Stan? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing both of you.
Mad, you're live in HD now. We can see everything real, everything like. No, your fans happy. No, the Stan fans are
I transferred to my phone.
No. We just talk about will the Grammy be relevant and so forth, and the different transfers. I think accolades mean a lot to creatives and to competitive people, artists, athletes and stuff like that. You have athletes that once they've made a certain amount of money, now the prime focus is, do I get a championship to put on my legacy? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we'll ever get away from that when it comes to the music also. But here's something I wonder. 9 times out of 10, we do. I think the only time there probably was never argument about the Grammy wins was the very first one. Thereafter, it was chaos. But when we talk about Grammy nominees and we talk about Grammy winners, do we see, like, for example, I always hear people talk about the Marleys, and anytime the Marleys are in, it's almost like a shoo-in, right? Julian would beg to differ, but it's like it's a shoo-in. My question would be this: personally, the only time I've ever kind of like, nah, man, I wish it should have gone elsewhere, was when Halfway Tree won over Music is Life, right? And then when I went back and I listened to both albums in its entirety, I can see why the album itself won. I was just rooting for Berries, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're just rooting for a team, right? So my thing is, a lot of times when people say, boy, the Marley name and stuff, because it always comes up, and we're going to go to this whole Skip Marley thing. Are they winning awards that they're not earning? I mean, I look at Welcome to Jamrock. I don't see what could have superseded that one. I look at an album like Revelation Part 1, The Roots of Life, even Mind Control when it came out, and the times when those albums were submitted, I can't honestly say that I was disappointed that they won.
Let me take that, because my sense of it, J. Cole, is this. I spent 12 years predicting winners and had a 100% record. Mm-hmm. And that was the first incarnation of the Grammys. Mm-hmm. And like you, I have not been disappointed when a lot of who won. And here's the reason. All things being equal, when you put Chronix versus Junior Gong, any one of those two could have won. It would be difficult for me to say that Junior Gong won because he was a Marley. Junior Gong won because he had a superb album, and so did Chronix. But it's what the voters chose. So I think the pushback, if you will, sometimes is a bit more meaningless, in the sense that it is more people's personal feelings, and not to downplay it, but it's more people's personal feelings of who they would like to see win, And I think that part of it, because I can't complain that a lot of who won, And on top of that, let's be honest, the Marleys have always put out a quality product.
Yep. Can't question that.
And the other piece of the Marleys is that they do 2 tours of the United States every year,
which is the prime Grammy market.
Them right. And you're saying, in effect, that gives you the leg up or the advantage. But that's the advantage that it takes to win a Grammy, in reggae. So I think, and another part of the problem also, if we're talking about it, is that I remember when my good friend Christy Barber in 2010 went to Jamaica and explained, and she, I hope she's watching, because I tried to reach out to her and try to get a number of industry people to register as voters for the Grammy. I think she got somewhere to 5 or 10. Most people just weren't interested.
If they did register, right? Let's say we went down and we campaigned and we got every radio disc jock and we got every real true lover of the culture to register. All right, knowing what you know, and Sydney, would it make a difference? Does our vote count? We sometimes we wonder about our votes in the primary elections here. Would it matter in the Grammys?
No, but there's a voting body. There's a vote. Let me just deal with Sydney. There's a voting body. And if you have a vote, your vote counts. What has happened is that the people who vote are not necessarily the people who know the music. So the idea was to bring the people who knew. And I remember having this discussion with my friend Priest McGregor. And I said I said, Fred, you have a bunch of guys at Big Ship Studio who qualify, because I know the qualification. Why not just register your people and vote? You know, and I think until they get into that part of the process, because you can't say their vote don't count even if, because they don't even try to have it. They've not exercised it in the way they should and could. And that's another part of it that I think that they need to. And that comes from what we talked about earlier about not even recognizing the music at home, much less abroad, because we still don't have, outside of the older folks, which is Jarira, who recognize veteran artists, and these are artists who coming back from the Grey Beard era of myself and Sydney and others. Those artists have a mindset about the music. They didn't have the support, and they didn't have the kind of recognition and make the kind of money that they probably make now and some are making. But my point is simply that somehow that award has maintained, and it has stayed, and they still get an award in Jamaica. Do you have a big award for Jamaican contemporary music? No. So how is it you're going to take very seriously what they're doing in Jamaica if they're not doing anything to celebrate their music? You know, that London does it, the United States does it. Yeah, go ahead,
sorry. No, what I was going to say, I'm just going to add two real quick. Regarding the Marley issue, the Marleys, irrespective of whether or not they're good or not, they bring to the U.S. The people who are making the decision a legacy of excellence.
Yep.
You can't take that away.
Which they live up to.
Yeah, they bring a legacy of excellence, and pertaining, voting is good, but you've got to have somebody in the room.
Yeah, I need somebody at the table.
If you got somebody in the room, because if you don't, the decisions are made and the discussions are done without you.
That is true. That is true. Now, here's the thing, though. We always say, okay, you know what? What we need to do is get everybody into to vote. We have a voice, and we're complaining about how things turn out. We don't vote, right? This is music. This is not the presidency. This is music where personal preferences come into play. Some we love dance. Some we have what I call tempo bias. Like my grandma had tempo bias. You could be singing about Jesus. If that rhythm too fast, she ain't with it, right? So people like what they like. Now, my thing is this. If we all decided to vote, are we all now voting for the best in music? Are we voting for our personal preferences? For the people who love Barry's Hammond, right? We just love Barry's. If the Barry's album comes out and it is not up to par with the next Chronix album, are they voting for the best in music, or are they going to be voting about what their preferences are? And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
You just described the Grammy process, because I'm looking at this year's Grammy and I'm asking these questions. Toots may in fact get the Grammy because out of sentiment, people may feel that it is a crowning glory to a great career because he died last year. And that's and let's not kid ourselves. People will vote that way. Right. So to your point, it's preference, but when you look at all things being equal, Barry's, for example, has said publicly, I do not make albums for Grammys. I make albums for fans. If I never get nominated, it's fine by me. That being said, if he has an album and it's nominated, are people going to vote for him?
Sometimes
people in positions are in the room to vote for him is the question.
Sometimes an artist is rewarded for their body of work. And Toots' album might not be the best album, but over the years, Denzel Washington, you remember what he won the Oscar for? Wasn't his best work, but they had slighted him the year before with Malcolm and several other films. So he got the award, and many of us think it was still his body of work.
But it was his best work, Sydney. But
yeah, right.
But it was amongst the best of what was nominated.
Probably what was. Yes. That gave him the opportunity to give him without controversy.
Right.
But if Toots gets the award this year, I wouldn't feel anyway, because he has done work over the years that nobody recognized.
But would you think that that's part of the problem, though? Because here's the deal. You said that if Toots, and I've had this conversation, had it briefly with Stan too, saying, okay, you know what? I'm cool with Toots winning it just because it's a posthumous achievement and it's a great send-off. How different is that than the other times when we vote for other reasons other than the quality of the music?
See, I wouldn't look at it like that, though. I didn't as an excellent send-off. I look at it as awarding this man for 30, 40 years of putting in work, when we turn our back on it.
But this is not a Lifetime Achievement Award, though. It is for the best work for the year.
Yeah, this is exactly where I'm going. This is what I'm going to, because I think Bob Marley has a Lifetime Achievement Award Grammy because he died before the reggae category. I think in that respect, you would give a Lifetime Achievement Award for that, as opposed to the album of the year, which is a different category.
That's what should
this
happen.
Is not to this is not to take anything away from Toots, because apart from I miss him dearly, because somebody I got to know and grew up listening to and love, and his body of work, I mean, speaks volumes. You know, you don't question Toots Hibbert and the Maytals, because they're Toots Hibbert that you don't say is Toots.
You could question this album though.
Done.
You could question this album though, because the album is not that great. I'm just saying. The latest album that's been nominated for the Grammy is not that spectacular.
I agree. But when you get inside the room and you close the door, that's the discussion that comes first.
Right.
And then after that, it goes to, you know what, though? We should give him the award because X, Y, Z.
And that's the politics of it.
Yeah, because the bad politics.
Let me put the color on it. There was a private session in Jamaica that I'm told Chris Blackwell had with just foreign press for Toots, right? And then we heard Roger Stephan is working towards getting him put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then we hear people like powerhouses like the Jagger, Bonnie Raitt, Willie Nelson, and people like that are in somewhere in there, may well be campaigning. Now, when those kind of heavyweights start to happen, do you really think it's really the album and not just the artist and his body of work that they're campaigning for, even though it is the album of the year?
Yeah,
that's the elephant in the room.
Then if that be the case, then we should just then maybe the grievance with the Grammys should be foregone, and we should be like, okay, you know what, it's just, you know, whatever happens. But I'll tell you this. Abdullah, no, you're not coming up on screen today. Yeah. I'll say this. When it comes to the albums going into the Grammys and so forth, and things getting nominated upon, my issue a lot of times is that same sentiment that we would award it to someone that the album hasn't earned it, but we've given it to him for something else, right? Now, as far as Ed says earlier, it's business. But here's the crazy thing about it. Let's talk about the albums that are nominated for this year's Grammy, right? We have Skip Marley, right, for his EP. And we're going to get into this whole EP thing, because remember, a couple of years ago, up to about 4 years ago, EP wouldn't qualify you for a Grammy nomination. But we could tell why that's changed. The Grammy Awards, the best in music, and what if the best in music is an EP? So I'm not mad at that, right? We have the Maxi Priest album, right? We also have Buju Banton, and we have One World by the Wailers. And Toots, of course. Now, here's my question. Firstly, I don't think this year was a great year for reggae music. That's just me. I don't think we had a lot of brilliant work come out this year. But those albums that are there, I wouldn't deem those the 5 best albums that came out, which is normally an issue, right? So does the grievance start before the award goes out? Are we really mad because the best in music is not being recognized, and now we got to pick from what they gave us? Is a situation where now I got to choose the best of the bad lot. No disrespect. I'm not saying they're bad albums, but you know, we're choosing from what they gave us, and the best ones are still, and I'm not talking about personal preference, but I'm just talking about musicianship, quality, hits. Because a lot of times I feel like the worst people to critique music are musicians and producers, because you're listening for stuff that does not matter. Right? If you notice, the least successful musicians and artists are the trained musicians and artists, right? Some of the biggest hits are not the best produced. Some of the best produced songs are not hits. So there's a whole bunch of different dynamics. But when it comes to the music that's being nominated, is that what it is? Did our grievance start way before the awards were being given out?
For the audience, that's where the discussion starts.
Mm-hmm.
For the guy who buys the record. The people who listen to the radio, that's where the discussion starts, because they heard something else, not necessarily from one of their favorite artists, but they heard another album. Like I mentioned Live Brown earlier, and I could also mention the Bulba York album.
Right.
You know, but
very nice album.
Yeah, so never got, you know, but the listener, that's where they start.
Right. From the pre-nominations, so to speak. So to speak. That's amazing. And again, no, let's go into the EP part of it now. Now the Skip, Tony Carr mentioned earlier that Skip's album or his EP is not reggae. I think he said something like that. Or not just Tony, but many people, their gripe is this reggae? My question pretty much is this. What exactly qualifies the music to be reggae? Because I think what's being nominated is the category shouldn't even be considered the best reggae album. It should be considered probably the best music of Jamaican descent, right?
The same discussion could be had for Time Will Tell from Bob Marley and several cuts like that. So in some categories, reggae music for me and for most people I know is not just musicality.
Right.
It's not just the bass and the rhythm section. It's also the lyrics.
Right.
And if you listen to a song called Faith on the Marley album, it is as good as you get from any reggae artist in the last 5 years.
Right.
So, you know, I don't have that challenge as some people do. Is this reggae or this not? We have always been versatile in what we did in music. Way back when we started doing ska, we were also doing jump blues. The jump blues that was coming from the Drive-In Juniors and the Blues Busters was almost like what you heard coming out of New Orleans. So we always been versatile like that.
Right. I dig that. Stan, Tony says, mark my words, Skip winning reggae will win if they don't give it to Toots for sentimental reasons. Now, here's the thing. I listened to all the albums, right? Now, I listened to the Toots album primarily so that I could have the conversation and be educated about it. Right? I didn't want to just speak on something I didn't listen to. I listened to the Buju album. I listened to all the other albums. I like the Skip album. Personally, my favorite album in the whole bunch for the second time around is the Wailers album. I think it's the best body of work in the mix. Right? The Wailers album. But as we say, Skip Marley's in the mix. Now, but I do like Skip's album. So if Skip came out the winner, would I be mad? Nah, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I'd probably be more mad if Toots won over Skip. That's just me. I love Toots and everything. We're celebrating the whole thing. I'll give him the Lifetime Achievement Award, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I am going to say I would probably be more disappointed if Toots won than Skip.
And you're both the fourth person I have heard said that about the Wailers album. And I think it's an excellent album. It also has the ingredients to win. The name produces. So I would not be surprised if that album win it also.
Would you be disappointed?
No.
Okay.
Well, here's my take on that. I will agree with both gentlemen that the Wailers album, when you have Gloria Estefan's husband Emilio producing tracks on an album, I mean he's a proven. My feeling is that sometimes the Grammys follows the trend, and Buju winning, and this is an outside view, Buju winning the Mobo and having a momentum coming in with people like Khalid and a bunch of others insiders on that album may put him in a place where he may win, and I wouldn't be disappointed if Skip Marley won either, because I happen to like his album. I also happen to like Max's album also, which I think is a solid album. So all things being equal, what's there, quality of music wise, I think we can fairly say anybody that wins this, G Cole notwithstanding, I know I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied because I think some good products came up. Was it the best of reggae for the 2020? No. I have a list of 50 albums that my former publisher out in Reggaeville sent me, Julian Schmidt from Reggaeville, that mentioned some what I like to call some kick-ass albums.
Right.
But these 5 are also in that 50. So the question is, which 5? So I'd be satisfied with whoever win. If I had to I am not in the business of picking anymore. I'll leave that to masters like you gentlemen. But I would say, I would actually say, if I had to look at it, all I can say is it depends on how the voters' moods are. If they decide we like to give Toots for his lifetime body of work and he's gone, he's going to get it. If they're looking at the most contemporary person in the space, it is going to be Skip Marley. And if they're looking and saying Max is getting his second album nomination and he's been good and he put forward a good product, if the work was done, as Sidney pointed out earlier, then Maxi might get it. Buju's on a roll. Like I say, Buju's at a historic juncture right now in reggae, in that he's the only artist to ever be nominated for a MOBO, which he won, now at the same time being nominated for a Grammy, and now a NAACP Image Award. That's big. Now, will that translate into anything? I don't know. But that's where we are.
Well, emotions are a crazy thing in Sydney. For example, all right, we talk about the brand of the Marley brand and how it will benefit Skip. We talk about the legacy of Toots and how it may benefit him. We talk about Max's other showing up and leaving empty-handed that may benefit him, right? The Wailers, you know what I mean? But here's the thing, though: is the Buju album really that great? Upside Down 2020. It's I mean, it's a nice album and a whole nine, but what I'm getting at is this: is Buju also benefiting from some other stuff that we don't oftentimes speak of? Sometimes we don't talk about certain things from certain artists because it's just saying it's not fashionable, it's not cool, we don't want to step on any toes or whatever the case may be. But people benefit from different things. The momentum and the trajectory that album is on is also based on, you know, the fans being away from him for however long, and he came out and he put forth that body of work. And of course, the major label contributions. It's a Rock Nation release, right? You got major label people on there like John Legend. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that song. I think it's a big record. But at the end of the day, we talk about the Buju Banton situation. I mean, is that album really a juggernaut too, that we can be like, well, if that one wins the Grammy, then yeah, something great won the Grammy? I think a lot of times that's the issue, that's the dilemma that we find ourselves in a lot of times, is, again, no different from us voting for our presidents and so forth. Are we voting for something? Or are we just voting against something? Are we choosing the best of the bad lot? Not to say that any of them are, but at the end of the day, is that album really that great?
Let me ask you this question, because Buju came out of, when he came back, Buju has been on a tear. He's been filling stadiums all over the world, and he's been on a high momentum for all of his sold out tours in stadiums, which not very many reggae acts do. Actually, I can't think of any that has filled as many stadiums in as short a space of time as he has, since, on whatever the reasons are. And when you, and like I said, the big momentum might be on his side. Right. And that's also part of the game. You know, just like the politicking is part of the game, just like Don Hewitt took the Dennis Brown Let Me Be the One album, went to California, went to all the Grammy parties, and made sure it was in the face of the voters. And an album that never saw the light of day, never made a chart. Dennis never sang a song of it because he was dead by the time it came out. He had passed by the time it came out. Still not known by very many people, but it was in the final five. You know.
What was the name of the album?
And spoiler alert, just for Let Me Be the One. I did the liner notes on that album, but I watched that process unfold. And I was a part of it. I was one of the publicists along with Lauren Drummond as that album unfolded. And it came from VP, was submitted in the pile, and it made the final five. That was then his second and last nomination, as far as I know. You know, so I'm saying that to say that the process as it unfolds functions differently. So it is hard to make concrete decisions and finite decisions about what, except the objective empirical facts of how things operate. When Sidney talks about format, when Sidney talks about radio program directors and people who play music and people who break music, those are also factors. And Rock Nation, you can bet your last dollar, Jay-Z isn't sitting on his hands, you know, because it's his product and he's pushing it. And DJ Khaled is making sure that it runs.
Let me answer.
Because he's
let me answer your question directly, G. Because he has Rock Nation behind him, there is a good chance that he's gonna have somebody, and they're gonna have somebody in the room.
Right.
Was it his best work? No.
Right.
Would you have done a much better work than this album?
Right.
But if he gets it, I could understand that because he had somebody in the room.
A win's a win, huh?
A win's a win.
A win's a win. I love that. Listen, Tony Carr is not having it one bit. Tony said, I like Skip EP, but it's not a damn, and I'm gonna say a damn reggae EP. All right, Tony's not having it one bit. No. The conversation about Skip's EP is reminiscent of last year's conversation about Coffee's EP, right? Now that the dust has settled and the embers are out, and we can always go back to normal and love what she does. A lot of people now are saying, yeah, when last year when the Grammy time up, they had the same issue with Coffee's EP. I did a show last year where I had to go in on one of my favorite bands all time because I felt like there was some unnecessary grievance, tossed at Coffee because for whatever reason, right? Now, again, who judges? Because as far as I'm concerned, every year of my life that I've been paying attention to music, there was an evolution. The change was coming, right? And when I say change, I don't want to say 100% change either, but some people would refer to it as just that, an evolution. It's evolving. It's not losing its core. It's not losing where it's coming from, but it's evolving. And then the Coffee scenario didn't start with Coffee. The change started with like the Proteges prior to her and the Kabakas and whatever the case may be. And then she came, nailed it, and just was a hit out the box, and it worked out that way. But are we prisoners of the moment? Are we hero worshippers? Have we set our shelves and put our heroes, our legacy, our expectations on the shelf? And if you don't meet that expectation, then we're not putting you in the room. Are we looking for people to continuously, for the end of time, sound like Bob Marley? Are we looking for what my brethren said? Do we have old ears? Are we only wanting to hear a certain thing and then we're disqualifying everything? How much of that is going on, Sydney, versus really it ain't reggae?
We have always been in the reggae music business. We've always had artists, and artists are free to create. Some of the stuff that I watch Love Is Rock, right? The series from London, and the series that they titled Love Is Rock. The one episode that was titled, there was a big controversy about it because when they were playing dub. Right. Part of the session, right? And everybody's, I guess, they tune in to see Love Is Rock, but a lot of it was dub music, right? We've always played all different kinds of music. The artists innovate, and again, musicality and lyrics to me is what makes reggae music. Reggae music is outstanding because the lyrics have always been a step above just about everything else you're hearing. Yeah. And so if the lyrics is there and the musicality is there, I don't have a problem. I like that. And I think it is important because at the end of the day, infinity is not something that was gifted to any man, right? So at some point we're going to expire. So we have to embrace the upcomers. Now, Tony Carr says Third World had the best LP last year. Coffee's EP was just over 30 minutes reggae. So we're dissecting it. We're getting technical, but here's the deal. The first line out of that, Third World was the best LP last year by about 10 miles, right? By about 10 miles, I think it was the best product in the race. Did I think it was going to win? No. Was I hoping it was going to win? Yes. You see, whenever we're asked who we think's going to win, what we really are saying is who we're hoping is going to win, right? So if we're being purely honest. But last year when Coffee was up for her thing, we had the same rumbling. Right? Now, my thing pretty much is this. Is this any different from the dance hall artists who feel like, unless you're Sean Paul, and I guess Welcome to Jamrock, I'd put in a dance hall category also. They also feel like they're getting the same thing where people feel like it's not reggae and it shouldn't be recognized under the reggae category. Stan, what do you think?
I think what happens here, and the discussion is raging in the space. First of all, there's the argument that you can't take Mavado and put him beside the Marleys. You can't put him beside Luciano. the argument being made first and foremost, before I posit my opinion, is that dancehall should have a separate category. Dancehall artists saying it, and more importantly now, even the debate has gone a step further. And my old buddy and columnist, when I was writing for the Observer from New York, Dennis Howard is arguing that what the nowadays quote dancehall artist is making isn't dancehall. It's time to give it a new name. So what you're talking about is evolving genres. So that's a part of the problem. Do you have two different? And I don't see it happening, by the way. None. Just to be frank, I do not see them splitting the two. But they're saying, in effect, you cannot have dancehall and traditional reggae, whatever that is, in the same space. So that's a big part of the problem.
Stan, if they make that argument, they're going to have to make that argument again when you look at what Six is doing. The guys squashing all those guys versus what everybody else is doing. So, I mean, that's splitting hairs. You know, when you start splitting hairs, you know. Yeah.
Especially when they're not fighting for the same market space, but they're fighting for the same market yard. So in other words, the audience that they're going for is the same people would vote for both. You know what I mean? Dancehall right now, from a sales standpoint, you know, unit stream, now whatever the case may be, is actually outdoing reggae itself in certain markets, right? But the reggae music, the timelessness of it and the reverence of it is what we look at, and it's the origin. And we don't even want to say it's the origin, because we can't say Skia come up before. A bunch of stuff came up before. What was it about reggae that made reggae the domineering factor, that the umbrella is now called reggae music? That's the question that we need to have, because everybody wants a piece of the pie.
And people need to understand radio. Again, right. When you start making this kind of discussion, these kind of points. Here's the thing. In radio, we have gone from tune to time spent listening. I need to keep a listener for 3 or 4 or 6 or 10 minutes longer. Mm-hmm. So what I'm looking for is a song that fits with the last one that I play. It's not really about us, it's about the listener. So if I can keep the listener a little bit longer, my TSL increases. That's how I make my money.
So the business of radio is not good for the music, probably.
It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a challenge because I've always got to find something that fits, because my goal is to keep my listener a little bit longer.
Right.
You know, the theory is I got to keep that listener. They got to hear that song 5 times,
right,
before they make a decision. So if I can keep them for a long period of time, you know, they will hear a song that they heard before in the earlier day part.
Which is the reason why 20 years later and 10, 15 years later, when we do hear reggae music or dancehall music on the radio, it's 10 and 12 and 15-year-old dancehall and reggae music, because the business of radio is not necessarily conducive to the music itself.
It really is a challenge. We have to make sure that the song help me to keep my TSL.
Right. Now here's another question that comes up amongst myself and the other crazies that talk about this stuff. When it comes to the Grammys, when it comes to most voting processes or whatever the case may be, unfortunately, kids aren't always involved in it. It's the more mature folks, right? From a certain age group up. If you find younger people involved in it, they're normally people who are involved in the business itself and are educated enough to be doing that. So my question pretty much is this: are we going to have? Is that the reason why there's so much of I'd like to say a little bit of bias, a little bit of kickback, a little bit of unreceptiveness to some of the younger sounds that come out? I'm not going to say younger artists, because some of the old people have tried the young sound, they just now work, right? Some of the younger sounds that's coming out, again, going back to the Coffees, going back to the Skips and so forth. Because I'll say this: Skip Marley makes great records. Right? Makes great records. And I remember saying that about Coffee too. And the same people who would say, well, Coffee is not making reggae music or Jamaican music, if she ever came out on a public sphere and say, you know what, I don't make reggae music, I make pop music, they would crucify her. So my thing pretty much is, how much of what we're listening for is coming with some form of a bias?
Most of it.
I think you start with that. Because we all have our biases. You start with that, J. Cole. And I think a lot of the discussion in the space at times, sometimes one is forced to kind of step back from it. Because the truth of the matter is that it's Jamaican music. And I'm running a series, and Sydney has been a part of it, on WBAI in New York with Happy Selassie, called Reggae Roundtable. We're talking about just that, because Carl Anthony, a former jock in Jamaica and New York, a veteran, argues that it would make sense to just call it all Jamaican music. It would be easier to handle if you just said Jamaican music, which covers so many different areas.
And I hope and pray they never do that. Here's why I hope and pray they never do that.
And as I said to him, infinite complications once you touch that. Once you start doing that, you're talking up you just open a Pandora's box there. But I get his sentiment that because there's so much, as Sydney said, look, we were playing jump blues before we got to ska. And then there was ska, and then there was rocksteady, then there was dub, which nobody talks about.
Right.
Eh? And you keep going. So it's kind of hard to be a purist in some sense, in that sense, and say, well, then this is not reggae or that is not reggae. Coffee is not playing reggae and Skip is not playing reggae. Skip is playing Jamaican music. They said the same thing, by the way, about Diana King, because she had to fight that fight. Because she said, listen, when she got back in the corner, she said, well, at least I have the Jamaican patois on it. Because that's how they pushed her. You understand what I'm saying? So I think at some point, the creative process cannot be streamlined to meet somebody's personal biases.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead, Sidney.
One of the challenges, again, we keep going back. I keep going back to formatting. We talk about the young cats like Sticks and those guys. A lot of what they're doing, it fits easier with the hip hop format, which is one of the largest format in the world right now, than some of the roots reggae. It's just a reality, And so, we as producers have to start thinking markets.
Right.
Okay. If I'm producing a record for North American market, I've got to understand what the radio stations are playing, and how my record is going to fit, because I can't play too reggae and then go back to what I've been doing.
Right.
But if I get something close to that, which is what Six and those guys are doing, and Skip Marley and Coffee, I can find something that can fit in.
And I'll give you an example. I have often looked at Sly and Robbie, who are the two most successful producers of Jamaican music over the eras, because they've always been successful both locally and internationally. And that question kind of rode me for a while until I met Sly and we sat down and had a conversation. And I asked him, I said, how were you able to meld everything together so well and to be able to get international hits so often? And his answer was very simple. He said, I have the Jamaican background. I know what we play and what our history is and what our tradition is. But I never take my eye off the market, what's being played elsewhere, and what is contemporary and current in the space. And then what I do is I pull from that, and then I try to blend it with ours to see if I can come up with a sound, which is what Sydney's talking about, a sound that is friendly to the ear of what's being played and can fit. That's why a song like Murder, She Wrote, and songs like that cross over so well, Right. And that in and of itself is what I think Sydney's talking about. And I agree with that. That's a conversation I like having, because I think at the end of the day, when you have the purists talking about this is reggae, and I remember Bob talking about it, I remember Marvin Gaye talking about it. He said, listen, I'm a creative artist first and foremost, but I also am a commercial artist. And the problem I have, and both men said this, I saw in interviews, the challenge for us is to create something artistically great and commercially viable. That means market that people want and hear, and that's where it comes in.
Well, here's that. Okay, so we talk about the business of music and we talk about the sound and the quality of music, which they're not always one and the same. So if we focus a lot on the market space, which in all honesty we kind of have to, because it is indeed a business, we may be playing what's not the best. You mentioned Six and Squash and all them things. They have a vibe on the whole nine, but as much as that be, I feel like those people who are voting Grammys and thinking, I can't see, I wish everybody the best, but I can't forego those names ever coming up in a sphere.
Probably won't, whatever, but they will get radio play.
Are they being played on radio, mainstream radio?
Probably because they don't have the people behind them.
You're saying they're making the sound that
the sound that they make fits with some certain kinds of hip hop.
I got you. No. Here's something I wonder, and I know you guys can shed some light on this. Tony said, "Who said coffee don't make reggae?" I heard several people say when the complaining was going on that what she was making is not reggae. But I did hear that, Tony. Now, we mentioned a couple of things. One being, hey, well, maybe it should be called Jamaican music or whatever the case may be. Here's my question for you, because I know it was a rumbling, and I felt the fear in that like 2 years ago or 3 years ago when the Grammys are coming around. What happens? What happens when the best music from us is not made by us, right? What happens when that time comes when the best reggae music out that year is not by a Jamaican artist? What are we going to do?
And that probably has happened. Well, when you say Jamaican artists, there are Jamaicans living in London, for instance. Are you
No. I'm talking about that. I would consider that a Jamaican artist. I'm talking about like a foreign band. What happens when The Green? What happens when Soulja? What happens when, you know what I'm saying? When Magic? What happens when Common Kings, when Tribal Seeds drop what happens when, I won't say Gentleman, because Gentleman has gotten his honorary Jamaican badge. He's one. So the thing is, what happens when the best album comes out and it's by one of those bands or one of those guys?
And it's going to happen one of the 2 years. It's going to happen.
Is that the year we storm the Capitol?
Okay. As a music critic, I'm not cultural historian. I would argue that if the best album is made by Catch a Fire out of New Zealand, or Common Kings, or even Jah Works in Baltimore here, and it comes up against something coming out of Jamaica that is clearly superior to, and it wins, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Great music is great music. Because remember how we got our music. We didn't just go in an incubator and come up with something. There was great music. As Sugar Minott once said to me, when I was growing up, I knew what it took to be a great singer because I had the gold standards of people who I had to look at and learn. So we learned from someplace else.
Don't say that out loud. You know we're not trying to admit that, Stan. Come on now.
But here's the key. Here's the key. At some point, and I'm going to go back into my radio career back in New York. Mm-hmm. I asked Family Man about, after we got done our radio interview, I said, Robbie ever worked here? He said, Robbie was my student. He said, there was a time Robbie and I sat down, listened to some music, and we couldn't tell which one of us was playing because we sound so much alike. And I said, but nowadays, nobody would mistake a Wailer's bass line for a Blackie Who bass line. He said, that's right. He started off sounding like me. He learned from me, but he became his own master of his own sound. So the idea, the chauvinism of thinking that only Jamaicans should have the best. You know, reggae is an international phenomenon. And the fact of the matter is, we have given the world something that it has appreciated as much as we have, and it has created equally good music. And we're going to have to learn to live with that. We're going to have to compete with that, and which I'm fine with because it will force a lot of people to, some of the crap that I hear coming out of Jamaica, sometimes it will force some people to make much better music, even though we're making some of the best music now. But that's another discussion. Go ahead, Sidney. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, let me quote Freddie McGregor in an NPR interview years ago. He said, our intention was to spread this music to the world. Mm-hmm. And we're doing it. And we have done it. And we're going to continue to be proud when we see people from New Zealand, England, Australia making reggae music, because that was our intent.
Yeah, and you know what? You're absolutely right. And most of the people who contribute to the culture will say that. But a lot of times you want everybody to love it. You just don't want them to make it better than you. Now, here's the thing, though. The one question I would ask is this. So let's say that day does come. You know how tribalism goes and globalism goes and the takeover goes, you know what I mean? And all of and gentrification goes. So should that day come when the Grammy goes to the non-Jamaican, all right, reggae band, Are we calling it quits right then and there because that's a floodgate that has been opened and we're not coming back?
No. As long as they don't deny the rules from which the music come, I don't have a problem.
I would not even consider that. I mean, I get your question and it is very germane, but I would not consider that for simply this reason. When I look at, for example, I'll give you another quick tidbit story. I'm at 930 Club in the press section, yelling up David Hines on stage and come over and high five me. And I saw a little girl beside me. She couldn't be more than about 16. Her mother was behind me and this girl was singing every song the Steel Pulse was singing. Mm-hmm. And I said to the mother, how the hell does this little girl know all these songs? She said she was in my belly when the Steel Pulse cassette tapes were playing. And her entire life, she's been listening to Steel Pulse and reggae music. Now, I can find people in Jamaica that don't have that experience. Are you going to say that that person is a legitimate reggae file? Because she spent her life in reggae and she knows the songs and she knows reggae artists? You see, what I'm suggesting to you is the generation, the Marley-led generation, which is Whirlers, Tash, Burning Spear, Dennis Brown, Peter Tash, and the whole of them, were hugely successful in their mission, which was to plant the flag of Jamaican music on the four corners of the earth. And as Bob Marley said, when he was making music, he was attempting to impress the ears of Jerry Mulligan and Dizzy Gillespie and people like that. He wanted the genre situated that those people could respect it. That's what brought Miles Davis to Jamaica. So I'm saying to you, when you are successful at what you do, and that was the mission, now you need to compete. Because the fact that somebody else loves your music and does it as well and sometimes better than you is not something for one to feel shrink at. Music, at the end of the day, while it is not a Usain Bolt race, it is competitive. And Creative Juices, Delano Stewart and BBC said to me, you know what used to be great in our day? When we had those Sydney know what I'm talking about, the All-Island tours where they would travel around and perform at theater. And you know what Bibi said to me at Coxon Studio? He said you'd watch Alton work on stage and Alton would tear down the place. I couldn't call the fire department to burn out the fire. I had to have twice as good. I had to be on my A game when I went on stage. In other words, the competitive piece in him said when we get on stage, we had better deliver as good as Alton or even better if we want to stand up. So I'm saying competitively, these folks had better realize that just produce great music, put the infrastructure in place that where you can get your music out there and compete. Because that's where reggae is. Not too many great mainstream artists nowadays go on an album and they may just want to put a reggae tune because of what reggae is. A lot of them put reggae on their albums just because of where reggae is and what it has accomplished and how they view it and how it is respected. You can't, that genie's out the bottle, you can't turn it back. The question is, can you join it or can you compete?
Well, here's another question coming off of that now. If we see other folks winning the race, not just the Grammy, the musical race, the reggae music race, how likely is it if we start seeing foreigners, white bands and so forth, winning Grammys and stuff like that? How likely is it that that is the time when we will start seeing the reggae category on TV?
History would tell me yes, that you're correct, but technology is telling me differently. That the significance of the Grammys is going to be reduced by the time that happens.
Right.
So that's kind of my take on it.
Stan?
Will that happen? Possibly. Will it make much of a difference? I think not. Because, like I said, there are forums. Buju, if he doesn't get the Grammy, he still says he had a successful year. I got the MOBO. And if he wins the MOBO and the NAACP award, he's still an artist that is at the head of the pack with his album. So I'm saying to you, Sydney talks about technology. I'm talking about awards. I'm talking about international recognition. And these are two parts of the industry also. So even if that does happen, there's still outlets. There is no bottleneck gatekeeper that is going to say, okay, because you get a Grammy, a white group get a Grammy. Will people be mad at the time? I'm pretty certain Jamaicans are going to be upset about it. And even some reggae lovers, and even some of my white friends who love reggae, who think only Jamaicans should play reggae, might be upset about it, G. Cole. But truth be told, if you don't get the Grammy, and if Coffee doesn't get a Grammy with Buju, and she gets the NAACP award, she still got an award this year. Do you if you follow what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I think you're 100% right.
And as Sydney said, bring more people in the room. So there are more awards. There are things that you reach for. We have penetrated the end. I'm ecstatic about the NAACP because Judy was an outside thing that was done. Randall Grass at Chanakey and got her that nomination in '87. Working Wonders was a A-class album. It was just as good as our Black Woman album. A little bit more contemporary, but she got the nomination and she was up against Anita Baker. They have not nominated anybody since. This year they have 3 people that are in it. So there is some movement going on, and there, even if you don't get a Grammy and you get an NAA, who's to say that the Grammy is more important than the NAACP or the MOBO? I don't think so. About any of you?
I'm not going to say that it is, but here's what I will say, and I oftentimes wonder. I wonder oftentimes if folks have started minimizing the worth and the value of a Grammy win so as to minimize the hurt of your artist or by that artist of not winning the Grammy. Because here's the thing, we talk about the different awards, and when I speak to different people, I'm not gonna lie, as much as the artists, because here's the one great thing I'll say about artists. Artists with the camera on and artists with the camera off is 2 different people, right? And at the end of the day, I hear a lot of people on public spaces will minimize the worth of the Grammy, and it's coming from a place of hurt too. But truth be told, if both hands are open and they can only get one, do you really think they would take the MOBO over the Grammy? Do you think they take the NAACP award over the Grammy award?
It depends. It depends.
Exactly.
Let me just say that it's not just reggae. We're having the same discussion in jazz. This discussion that we're having right now, we're having it in the jazz music industry also. The question really for me is, all those artists you mentioned, the Greens, those guys from California, from West Coast, down yonder, New Zealand, England, Jamaica, are we large enough now to have the kind of award, celebration that surpassed the Grammys? Are at the Grammys level. To me, that's kind of what that should be riveted in here at some point. Are we large enough as an industry to elevate our own artists?
I understand exactly where you're coming from with it, and I think that'd be a beautiful thing because yes, strength in numbers, and you're talking about this reggae situation starting from being a music from Kingston and branching out to being a music that went to London. And went to New York, and it was primarily little diaspora pockets in Toronto or whatever the case may be. And no, it is all over the world. But if it does get strong enough, big enough, global enough to be able to get its own forum, its own platform, its own award stage, how long does it take before that then becomes a political tool, and we start saying, yeah, I just the people them from Australia vote and Sammy Johnson carry on everything. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like those. So I guess the point I'm getting at is once it comes to an award being given and it's given somehow, somewhat by an electoral process, is there any way for it to be ethical? Is there any way for it to be fair or at all in the eyes of the fans and the artists?
It's a part of a business that's not entirely fair,
right?
And so it's going to be tough for you to isolate the Grammy out there and say it should be fair, more fair than the rest of the business,
right?
So that I will it ever be fair? I don't know. I don't think.
Let me come at it a different way. There's not a sprinter that had Usain Bolt's physical abilities that has lived. Was it fair to the rest of sprinters that he had all that advantage going in? Because he was their competitor. Who says that life has to be fair? I mean, you are competing. you have an opportunity to compete. I'm a believer that you must have an opportunity, equality of opportunity, but not necessarily results.
Right.
And that's how I come at that question, because I think, quite frankly, you're always going to, life isn't fair, and we all know that. Right. And I can't sing like Stevie Wonder. I can't write or play like Stevie Wonder. And there are people in music not as good as Stevie Wonder, but they're going to have to compete with him if they have a song that is up against his song in a category. And who knows, their song might be better than Stevie and might win Song of the Year over Stevie. But Stevie's the better musician. So I'm saying, in essence, that's just the way, as I'm saying, I saw the thing set.
So the thing set.
And we just have to deal with those certain realities I just think we can't change. Well, I think we can't change, and we just accept them and work with them. All right, case in point, Jamaican music, when it came to America, it wasn't supposed to succeed. Jamaica never even accepted it in full. We never thought it was worthwhile, and people had to get up and, as Bob Marley said, play God the Four Corners of the Earth and play it and build the audience. I had an extensive conversation with Dennis Thompson with a 3-hour interview where he talked about when he came to America, none of the halls could handle reggae. Right. So they had to start teaching these promoters how to get the right speakers, the acoustic, the whole thing. So I'm saying you come against all odds and they prevail. So I don't see this as a big deal. And I'm not trying to downplay your question, G.
No. I understand.
I know that people feel and I know people feel that way. But the fact of the matter is there's some realities that we just have to accept. Where their musicians are competitive in the space, in the marketplace, and you just have to put your best product, put your best team together, and the rest of it you work at. That's how I look at it.
Right. Sydney, you were saying something on that too?
It's a long road. One of the challenges that we have had in not just in music, in our own life as people of color, is waiting for legitimacy.
Wow.
Wow. I'm at the point in life now where I think I've got to put my own. We've got to put our own stamp on.
Right.
And because what she says, it doesn't mean the good album is going to ever win.
Right.
The best album is always going to win. The one with the marketing and the one with the push and the one with the guys in the room. That's just how the Grammy is set up. I'm not expecting them to change.
Right.
Okay. Because they're not going to change. They didn't change for jazz. They're not going to change for us. So
you're absolutely right.
At some point, you're going to have to say, okay, I've got to find another way to celebrate our artists.
Right.
And especially the guys who are putting in the work.
Right.
So that's kind of where I am, and that I don't think we're going to get them to change. They will tell us what they think we should do, but then the next week they change that.
Right. So some pacification going on.
I think also to go to a point Sydney made at the start, and I've reiterated, maybe Jamaica need to start seriously thinking about honoring the great music that they make in Jamaica. So artists, even if
what about the Jammies? They started trying to do
that. Those things come and go. They don't stay. The Grammys are here. And I mean, Jarea has been around for a while and it has not fallen down. What I'm saying is this. If Bulby York's album doesn't get nominated for a Grammy, I'm sure Bulby would be happy if his peers in Jamaica and the people of Jamaica nominated him for a category Best Instrumental Album of the Year and work with it. And he can say, I didn't get a Grammy, but I got the approval of my people because I made music in Jamaica. That's all I'm saying, really, in a nutshell. Because you really do need to, at some point, recognize that you make great music because you're a talented person, and everybody wants to be recognized. And not all recognition is the same. I will admit that a Grammy is not the same as something else. But I'm saying also that not everybody is going to get recognized because there's only one Grammy, and VP submits 125 albums, just one company alone. And only 5 can come out of that. What happens there? Right. Those are just the realities.
And again, that also kind of magnify what I said earlier. At some point, we've got to look at the industry from New Zealand, from England, from the West Coast, and say, can we put together some semblance of you don't have to call it an award, whatever it is, to honor the people. John McLean over in London, he just celebrated 30 years in this business.
Right,
People in Jamaica never heard his names. A lot of people never heard his name. And so there are enough people in our industry who are putting in work that deserve to be honored. But I think we're going to have to do that ourselves. I stop looking for other people to do it. That's just where I am right now.
Now here's a question I'd love to ask, and it's a little off the part here. We've seen some stuff come up lately where people are trying. Well, actually, the government's trying to ban certain type of lyrics, right? Which they've always for years tried to ban certain things, right? I ask it in regard to this conversation because it kind of mends its way in a lot of times where we often hear a little rumbling saying the reason why the reggae music and the dancehall music and stuff like that isn't really as accepted how we want it to be accepted is because it's a little aggressive, it's a little harsh. You know what I mean? It's a little abrasive for the most part. We do have our Sean Pauls and our Shaggies. That's going to give you something a little palatable and whatnot. But for the most part, it's a little harsh, a little hostile. Do you think it is okay to censor music? Do you think it's okay to say you're going to ban gun lyrics, right? That's what they said, they were going to ban gun lyrics. What's your take on banning? Are we going to go specifically to gun lyrics?
You want to go first, Sydney, or should I?
You go ahead.
Okay. I am never a fan of censorship.
Right.
And I'm never a fan of governments telling you, because artists are creative people, I'm never a fan of government telling you what you can and cannot play and what is acceptable. That being said, the converse of that is it's the old argument that you have the right to shout fire in a theater, but if you cause mayhem, you pay the price. For me, I think what is missing in the gun lyrics, guys, and so forth, is that there's a lack of self-censorship. And artists do that. And that's the difference. Government, I suspect the government, it's an easy call for them because they don't have to deal with the crime problem in Jamaica and they don't really have a plan to do it. So it's easy to do that. But the idea of government banning music, we saw what that did in the 70s. Big U, Peter Tosh, my friend Carl Dawkins in Almond Town, a really nice little loving song like Get Together was banned. You know? So it doesn't work. As a matter of fact, sometimes if you want to get a hit, just have the government ban it. And then everybody want to hear why them. As Lady Saw said to me, if them ban me right here, I just go out there and do something, and everybody want to come see me perform, come to wonder why them banning this lady. So it really is counterproductive. But the artists have to be more responsible.
We have to.
And we can't walk away from.
We have to police our own industry.
But we don't though.
Well, not anymore because everybody have their own studio. Okay, but I don't think there was anybody more political and more in your face than Marley and Peter Tosh was.
Right.
But everybody wanted to hear them because there was a measure of what they do. They understood the audience and they understood what was right for what audience.
But here's the economy with that now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It was rebel music. It was rebellious music. It was rebelling against the establishment, so to speak, right? Because a lot of things were going on, and like we've established, reggae music is the voice of the people. That's how the news got out. Because at that point, news outlets were just telling us what they wanted us to hear, right? So if you wanted to know what's going on, you really kind of had to go within the dance hall, the walls of the dance hall, to hear certain things. So yeah. But
Uptown had their bands, downtown we had sound system.
Exactly. But the thing now is, it's a different thing when you're putting out lyrics, and not to say that this is new, because this has been going on for a long time, that's inciting and depicting and graphically stating how to kill people.
The challenge is right now, music have always been the soundtrack of the artist's life. But if you want your music to get beyond the airport, you're going to have to make it become not just the soundtrack of your life, but also the soundtrack of my own life.
Relatability.
Yes. That's why Marley was so popular. That's why Peter Tosh was so popular.
Right.
That's why Jimmy Cliff is still so popular today. Because the music they make is the soundtrack of not just their own life, but other people's life.
And you see, you talk about Jimmy Cliff and Peter Tosh and Bob Marley. Our struggles, our fights, our journey may be different, but we all have struggles and we all have fights and we all have journeys, right? And relatability is key. You may be fighting against one type of an establishment. I may be fighting against another. So the music that you put out, you know, can encourage me, can help me to go through my situation, even though our situations aren't unique. Now, we have a lot of stuff that comes out to me that I think is more harm than good, but it's talent, it's creativity, and the whole nine. Here's where I think the issue lies. They are talking about banning gun lyrics, and a lot of times they say from radio. Realistically speaking, radio shouldn't be playing gun lyrics from the get-go, right? So that's a different issue right there. Now, if it's in the walls of the dance hall, I'm not going to go there and censor the music. I would just ask and hope that the artists can be more responsible. We talk about people talking about their lives and their stories. 90% of the artists that are talking about the stuff that is not their life and it is not their story. All right, it's just graphic. It's just graphic depiction of stuff that is sometimes to me overdone and unnecessary. Because here's the deal: if you're talking about what you see, it's not like the song starts off and it says, "Well, this is what I saw." And then at the end of it, say, boy, I wish I never said that, right? They're talking about it. They start in the middle like an action film. Bang, bang, bang. I'm doing it, right? And what happens pretty much is a little irresponsible because you have fans, some younger, some older, some of them who can be affected more by the music than others that are listening to it. So I will never be in support of government having the okay or having that authority to dictate what people do.
Well, let me just add to this, though. Mm-hmm. If you're playing it over public airwaves, yes, that's the government's responsibility.
Right.
Because you want to hear it doesn't necessarily mean I want to hear it.
Correct.
And if the airwaves is owned by the public, then you shouldn't subject someone to something that they might not want to hear.
Right.
So that's where that kind of control. But in the sound system and the other places where it's played,
anything goes.
Anything goes. The challenge with a lot of those lyrics you talk about is sometimes artists have to stop and think, will this be played 5 years from now?
Right.
Will they want to hear this 5 years from now? Because if they don't want to hear that 5 years from now, you probably need not to do it. Because you're putting a lot of resources in doing it. If you're doing it for now, it's a hustle.
Which seems to be that's the most people look at it as a hustle, because are most artists looking at 5 years from now?
Let me just jump in here. There are a couple of things I'd like to say here. As I said earlier, self-censorship and responsibility. I'll give you another tidbit story of an artist who is typical of what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. Bounty Killer. Mm-hmm. I am in a press conference, myself, Christine Hewitt, and a bunch of us at Culturama at Downing Stadium. And I was concerned about the gun thing. So I said to him, my question to him was, reggae music is about a celebration of life. And you come in to tell people about people dead? How does those two relate? And he said to me, listen, it was a concept. He said, I can't promote gun lyrics. Because when I was 8 years old, I was coming home and somebody, I feel heat on my side and it's a gunshot I got. So I'm not a fan of gun and shooting, but it's a concept I used to burst me. All right, that's the creative side of it. I'm saying that to say this. If the artists, a lot of the artists that we see today have fallen into the trap of, if I'm not a bad man, I'm not a bun body man, if I'm not talk about underneath a girl, I'm not talk about shoot down somebody, and to make me look big and have street creds, I'm not say nothing. Okay? That part of it is troubling because you're doing it for shock value. Okay? You're not doing, and a lot of the violence that is in some of those songs is not creatively used.
That's true.
It is used for shock value. It is used to hype up an audience. It is not creative performance. I can tell you, I have been to thousands of shows in my life. I started going to stage show when I was like Sydney, when we were little boys in Jamaica. And once it became a part of my life, by weekends every weekend was up. And I can tell you, Bob Marley used to say you can know a real musician because you see it in them eye. I can know a real performer, and I know when somebody's playing to like a minstrel to an audience. A lot of these guys aren't responsible. I don't know how you tell me that it is creative to boast about how much of a man's marrow you have splattered all over the place. Right. I don't know. And within context, because art is context, and art without context is meaningless. If you're telling a story of things happening, and I don't believe artists are to be proselytizers and preachers. We have churches for that. What I am saying, however, is that you must be responsible about the way you use violence. How much more violent than feel like bombing a church now that you know the preacher is like, you get any more violent than that? Or burning an illusion, burning all pollution,
we can relate to that.
No, what
because
I am
all
saying
of us have that feelings at some time.
No, but my point is, it touched something. None of us would have burned down a church. We're expressing a sentiment of hypocrisy in the society, and we saw it and we knew it. Jamaica is a violent society. I mean, people walking into a church and shooting a woman, people raping 6-year-olds and grandmothers, and people acting as if somehow that is a normal, that is uncivilized behavior. And don't tell me that artists are reporters. We have journalists for that. I am one of those. Artists aren't reporters. They get license. They have a poetic license to do certain things and give a creative vision. If your creative vision is how much you can rape some girl or shoot some, or burn somebody man or blow somebody marrow, then you're not saying anything, because I cannot see, unless you can give me the probative value of it, I don't see it. And it's not because I'm, okay, the respect for the institutions are broken down, the society is running rampant, and it isn't the artist's fault, let's be clear. They're a convenient scapegoat by politicians, but you cannot contribute to the decay of the society with some of the lyrics that you come with and then talk about the prime minister need to solve the problem. Every man, the song said, put your hand on your mouth when you cough, that will help the solution. Every man is responsible for what he puts out there. And I'm not, artists can put out tunes because there's reason to be angry. You live in the ghetto, you're going, but James Baldwin said, the position of a black man, the permanent position of a black man in the United States is to be angry. When you have oppressive condition, and Sugar say, oppression make a wise man mad. Okay, so anger is a given. But there is creative anger, and there's wanton, willful, destructive, and irresponsible anger. Here's the question for me, equal, is which one you're going to do. You cannot have little kids. What Bounty said to me, I go back after I do the gun tune them and I go back and I do book. I do stay in school. Lord is my light and salvation. I ask him why in that same interview. He said it was very simple. I realized I look youth them out the street and listen to me. And them I follow what I say. So I tell them to stay in school instead of go bust a gun. And book and the Lord is my light and my salvation. So in other words, he found the responsibility to balance off some of the things that he did, and he paid attention. And Bounty Killer is still cross, miserable and angry. I worked with him on his album. He's a nice guy, and there is nothing wrong with anger. Go read, and for the public who are listening, go read Langston Hughes' The Racial Mountain, where he talks about marginalized culture and the violence it produces, but how it produces great art. Right. That's where we need to be looking. People need to be intelligent, and you don't have to have a degrees, right? A PhD like Sydney or MBA like me or whatever. We grew up with people who shaped us that didn't finish high school, that didn't even enter high school, but they imparted. It's a values question. How much do you value Jamaica? How much do you value the art that you have? And I don't want to sound like I want to come off from a soapbox real quick, because I don't want to sound like I'm preaching. But we need to. That needs to be. Those kinds of discussions need to take place. Right. You understand? I'm not dismissing no artist, because every artist is creative energy. And I've been around artists all my life, so I know what a creative energy is.
What I wanted to add to that, G, was
go ahead, Sydney.
Sometimes that facade that the artist put out, it morphs into reality.
Yep.
So you end up with Ninja Man. Last week, Mavado's
self-fulfilling.
Yeah. You understand? And so, which could have been avoided, really, in the first place.
Right.
Vybz Kartel, as talented as the brother is, he can't do the stuff that we would love to see him do.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. My favorite DJ, dancehall artist of all times, Bounty Killer, right? Rodney Price. Needless to say, Cross, Hungry, and Miserable. I tell the story over and over and over. As much as it's my favorite artist, I remember one weekend I was in Ocho Rios, and that was a big weekend because LL Cool J was there. Who else was there? Brian McKnight was there. Half the Manchester United football team was there. And then guess who else I saw down there? Rodney Price. I met everybody except Rodney because I never want Rodney load me up on him. Cross, Hungry, and Miserable, right? So that right there, I think also is a situation where your art can imitate life. No, and life will imitate art. But I'll tell you this. There's nothing more heartwarming to me than seeing a Bounty Killer or anybody, whatever, spoken a certain way, as an elder right now, redeem themselves by saying, even though I said that, I don't stand by it today. And then you have people out there who condemn them for it and say, oh, you're a hypocrite because you used to say it. I used to say it, but I don't say it anymore. How do you feel, Sydney, when you hear a Bounty Killer, an artist like those who used to say people dead, right?
Well, you say he's one of your favorite artists. He's recently became one of my favorite because what he's singing, the stuff that he's doing now. Like the song he has about immoral leaders. I mean, one after the other, he just writing the kind of stuff that we need to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What about you? And Stan, you've been around Killer.
No, but here's the thing. You're looking at somebody who likes like DJ Clash, you know. Nothing tells me more than to watch two DJ Clash.
Right.
Okay? And Supercat and Bounty Killer are my two favorite DJs. Barring none. I mean, I love Junior Gang lyrically, but those are my two favorite DJs.
Right.
That being said, you've got to know the time you're living. Jamaica is at a point of violence. So therefore, this is why I talk about self-censorship and responsibility. Ask yourself, if I have a gun tune and things and the society is calm and everybody will take it as art, all right. But if them going to shoot a little baby and the stuff that we're hearing in the papers recently, and that is the trend, do you really want to be out there DJing and glorifying that? Is that responsible? Right. You have to reflect the time you're living. Okay, and sometimes you change your art according to the realities around you. Because if what you're going to do is going to feed into a negative trend, then you do not do it. Because people who hold you responsible, they give you a privileged position in society where you have a megaphone and you have to be responsible about how you exercise it. Nobody's not saying, I'm not saying to any artist, and I would never dare say to an artist, you cannot speak of violence. Violence is human nature. Creative violence, constructive violence. Yes, and you can do a rough song. Now is not the time. And when things get out of hand, you have to look at Sam Cooke was one of the greatest songwriters, and I was watching a documentary. Big Dog said, "Oh, you never got no charts from the day, and you've been at this thing for 10 years, and there hasn't been a year when you don't have a number one." He said, "It's simple. I look around me and see what's happening with people, and I get a sense of what's happening with them. I put it in a song. Some from, in other words, time, and he was able to get onto the hits, make hits of what was around him. Artists need to just educate themselves, and they don't have to have degrees. Just educate yourself and just look at the society that the Bounty is now mature. He was a 40-something-year-old man. Go ahead, Sidney.
That's why we got to big up man like Assassin too, but go ahead, Sidney.
Yeah, I was gonna. You took it well. Exactly what people like Sasko, they have become, I would say, leaders among their peers because they are calling it the way Marley called it, the way Peter Tosh called it back in the day. And sometimes when a society degenerate the way some of us, have in Jamaica, the artist has a responsibility to do that. Right. And Bounty Killer hasn't really changed, from
just mature.
He just gone to another level.
He's mature.
And that's how it should be. You know, I love that within the dancehall space, because I think what it does is it celebrates and highlights the fact that being intelligent can be cool, right?
Yep.
Doing something that is positive is cool, because let's just call a spade a spade. It has been celebrated over time that it's the dancehall sphere is the hostile sphere, and that's what we do there to be cool. Even Ed Robinson said, "Remember, DJ thing become a shock value thing, right?" Which is true. You know, Ed says something here which I love this because it come up a couple of times. Are you saying that foreign artists are not threatening too? You know, the funny thing about it, they are, and they're more so threatening than even our own artists. But I don't call them my artists, and I don't call it my place, which I rightfully should. Home is home, but there's a sentiment to Jamaica that I have that I don't have for anywhere else. So the destruction of that land affects me a lot more than any other land. But I'm not gonna say this one because this is where I live. But at the end of the day, my sentiments towards Jamaica is a little different than it is to anywhere else. Tony Carr, give thanks for rocking out with us. Gentlemen, thank you so much, first of all, to you taking your time and hanging out with us, because I'm learning a lot, and a lot of the masses are too. Big up Mason the Emperor in Japan and all the massive over there in the land, you know, after midnight sun. You know what I mean? Australia's in the building too. I see Alaska here too. You know, but it's just great having a convo with you guys. But I'll say this to a lot of people listening in right now. I love speaking to people who can give me a different perspective from my own, right? And you two gentlemen have done so. You've given a lot of the audience watching and listening right about now a different perspective from their own. Speaking of perspectives, right? We're talking again, we start coming full circle. Grammy. All right. Who you got, Sydney?
I got the Marley Kid.
You got Skip.
Yeah, I love Max Caprice, and I would love him to win, but I got the Marley Kid.
Stan, who you got?
You want my personal favorite, or you want who I think is going to win? Which one?
You remember earlier I said anytime you ask somebody who them think are going to win, then tell you who they want to win, two different something. So my thing is, who you think taking it home?
Right now, I think the Marley Kid will take it simply because Skip has just simply dominated the space for the whole year, and he's grown, made the kind of move. In other words, the way Coffee was, but a little bit more because he's been more mainstream,
right?
And also getting 2 nominations for a Grammy doesn't hurt. So I think he's coming in with a strong brand. He's dominating the space, and he's been successful. That's the recipe for a winner. So
let me also add that he has had more North American airplay than anybody else was nominated.
Yeah.
You know, the song with her.
More than the big uncles, too. So, you're no. Again,
wait a minute. Let me say something real quick. Because the master lyricist is Junior Gong. And the most intense. You understand?
That song is a masterpiece.
Skip good enough.
Yeah.
But Skip is a youngster coming in the game. Him at the master's feet, because there's nobody spits lyrics like that boy called Damian Junior Gang Marley. I love him.
You see, that's another thing, because I had the conversation the other day. I was saying to some people that a lot of times people will not give you your accolades because and this is another show too that we're going to do, and I'd definitely love to have you guys on, when we say don't ever use your reverence for one person to downplay the excellence of another. And I feel like Junior Gang, no matter how great he is, just because he's a Marley, a lot of time people just refuse. I don't know if they're scared or they just refuse to give him the credit that he deserves. But I think I'm putting him in there, to me, lyrically, as one of the greatest.
He's talented. He's a super talented young brother. And humble.
And and that's the other thing I'll say too. People can say what I want to say. Not humble, but I'm gonna give him this too. Hard working. I've been in studio sessions with them dudes and be like, yo, many forgot me. Yeah,
you know, you just hit something.
He's the closest to his father. He's the closest I've seen to his father.
I've heard a lot of people talk about Marley, and they talk about how great he was, but nobody talk about the work that Marley put in.
Ethic. The work
24/7 that he did.
Yeah. And those guys have it. Those guys have it.
No, they learn. Unlike a lot of reggae artists, which kind of disappoints me. These boys learned from their father what success requires,
right?
And they taken that blueprint and worked with it, and the results are showing. They work hard. They work very hard, and the work ethic is great. And the work ethic is great. Two tours every year. Two tours every year.
They also don't skimp on production. They don't skimp on production, and that's another thing too. Is that people sometimes I feel people shortchange the production. I'm gonna give a shout out right here, and I'm big up to Stephen Marley, because when you look at Stephen Marley, and I'll say Ziggy, but I'm gonna go right back to Stephen because we talk about Stephen and Ziggy, and they were able to see and learn from their father, work ethic and all that. But bear in mind how young Gang was when Bob passed, so you know who he learned work ethic from. Even though that is dad. A big brother thing that. Now I asked that question earlier. We're going to the other side of the fence right about now, which you mentioned who you thought was going to win, and I'll tell you, well, here's a question: who you rooting for? Sydney.
I'll be straight up, Moxie.
Yeah,
this is his third nomination. Mm-hmm. He's a good brother, but it is what it is.
Right. Sydney, who you rooting for?
I said Moxie Priest.
I'm sorry. Stan. Who you rooting for?
I actually don't have a favorite. And I'm not ducking the question, but I don't have a favorite.
No, my ducky, I don't think, man. Sydney. I ducked him out the thing. That's true.
If you ask me who, all right. If I had to be partial, I'd be partial to Moxie because I think the album is good enough to win, and I think he deserves it. If I had to make a choice, if I'm counted that way.
No, Ed Robinson said Moxie Priest. Tony, are you talking about Moxie Priest? Tony says no damn reggae on his EP, not one song. Damn, yo, you know something? I need to have Tony in a whole but no. Tony Carr, who are you talking about? Who you talking about? Is it Moxie you're talking about?
He's talking about Skip.
Skip. I don't know about that. There is, but I understand. Stan, I don't know if you can see the comments here, but Ed said,
no, I can't.
Ed says, stop ducking the question, Stan. And Tony Carr says, stand up, still don't duck the question, but you answered it. Okay, so he clarified. He's talking about Skip. I think I have a little bit of a bias myself. Even though it's hard to call Skip Marley an underdog because he's a Marley, right? There are certain people who come in the race with the odds against them in terms of public opinion from the sphere. People definitely don't want to see him get it for whatever reason. I felt that way about Coffee, and I feel that way now about Skip. And I think for that reason, you know what I mean? I do think he will take it home, but I'm rooting for, if I'm going to answer it myself, I'm rooting for the Wailers just because I solely believe in and I go for the body of work. No different from the third world scenario. The body of work is all that's important to me, right? And I think the Wailers have the best body of work, but I think Skip will take it home. And in all honesty, I wouldn't be mad. I would not be mad if he did.
Well, I'll tell you this. I have a very good friend, Carl Anthony, who shares your sentiment when it comes to the Wailers. Yes.
It's a beautiful project. Stan, let's start with you. Let the masses know, because you know what, there's great information that you provide and great insight, and people need to get it. All right. I am on here all the time having a good time. I am the real balance between some substance and some ignorance, right? And the ignorance part of it is fun. Right, so that part of it I love. But there's so much they can learn from you. I want you to drop some information for the masses so they know where to get with you and get in contact with you.
All you've got to do is go to Jamaicans.com, and you'll always find me there. Drop me a comment if you have a subject matter that you'd like to see something written on. It's me, but that's where you'll find me, Jamaicans.com for right now until I get into some other stuff. And I'm also doing Reggae Roundtable on WBAI 99.5 in New York with Hapta Selassie, along with Sydney and Carl Anthony. So you can tune in. Check out my Facebook page, Stan Evans Smith, and there's one, Winston Evans Smith. Both of them you'll find it, and on Jamaicans.com, because I'm the senior music editor there. And you'll find all that I've been doing. What I want you to also pay attention to, I will be doing something on the Grammys before, but by the way, we're talking about the Grammys, and before you go, we don't know, it's tentatively scheduled for March 20th. Tentatively, because they say they're looking for a place to host it. Because LA, because of the coronavirus, they're not able to do it. So we'll see, but I'll be writing something on the Grammys also. So look out for that. There's something coming down the pipe. And I would just say happy birthday to Bob Marley and Dennis Brown. And you can go pull up my articles on both of them on Jamaicans.com. I am happy that we're celebrating. Bob Marley seems to be the only artist that has a birthday party every year in every country on his planet, you know. But happy birthday to Mr. Marley and Mr. Brown, Georgie. We call him Georgie Pargy, but
don't forget Bunny Ruggs.
The great William Bunny Ruggs Clark.
And also happy birthday to our WPFW virgin who has been with us, Tony Carr, right there down there in Washington, D.C., whose birthday was 2 days ago. So I can't forget that. Or was it yesterday, Tony? Correct me if I'm wrong. But happy birthday, you know.
Well, and Tony Carr is no longer just Tony Carr now. Tony Carr is Tony the Fireman Carr, because when Tony come on and start bonfire, you know, it forever stable.
Sydney, all them saying, I'm me for tell you. What we have to deal with. I'm me for tell you, G. Cole. When me and Tony get together, the fire station don't stop ring. The bell to the fire station don't stop ring. Oh, and happy birthday to Pam Hall also. But G. Cole, this was good. And I really appreciate you affording us the opportunity to do this, because I think it was necessary. And thank you very much. It's been a joy. It's a pleasure working with you, Virgin.
Always a pleasure. The pleasure is indeed mine. Trust me, and I say it from my heart. It's a pleasure chopping it up with you, gentlemen. Sydney, you can't get off without telling people where to find it, because there's a lot of info and insight and entertainment that these people are gonna get. So let them know where to find you.
I'm easy. I'm one of those guys who's kind of stepped back from the radio business, and after being in 17 years at NPR and managing radio stations, these days I do a website called Kingston12.net. And I run a digital radio station 24/7 called Kingston 12 Digital Radio. And it's a 24/7 reggae. If you have an Amazon Echo, just ask Alexa. They said she's the smartest woman to play Kingston 12 Digital Radio, and she would play.
God, I love that. I love that. You know, and we'll do this another time, because I've had a couple of episodes where I talk about the difference between terrestrial radio and internet radio and so forth. You know, does one deplete or diminish the value of the other? Is terrestrial radio ever going to become obsolete and all them things? But I hear you saying right now you're leaving the game.
No, it's not leaving the game, because the reason why John Malone purchased iHeartRadio, it wasn't it's because he has assets. All the legacy channels now he can split into 4 channels and move them over to digital. So they will coexist together.
Right.
But if you can't get played, what I was saying that to mean, if you can't get played at 93.9 in New York City, don't worry yourself. There are some digital stations that are doing much better than legacy stations now.
Yep.
There's another set of guys out in New York called Reggae 141, and they are blazing reggae.
Right.
You know, so you know it's technology. We're in a transition period, and it's changing. This little thing here is 30,000 radio stations.
Wow.
Come from Germany.
Wow.
30,000 stations are on here. From Jamaica, from all over the world.
What is that called? What's that?
This is Blaplunk, and it's their version of the Amazon Echo.
Oh, okay. Mad. Mad. You know, I'm glad you put me onto that because I got to check it out. When I talk to people about radio, and people talk about radio like it's a dying thing, and people complain about radio all the time. I love radio, but I love content. You know what I mean? So the thing that I don't dig about radio a lot is just the monotony and the fact that, like you said, one person, whether it be Clear Channel, whatever, iHeart, whatever, whomever, is like they own most of the stations. If you flip from one to the other with like a 3-minute time span, you can hear the same song over and over and over and over.
Right. Because the playlist is 225 songs long.
Yep. And
there's
that's
not a lot of room for it.
Yeah.
The big thing now is you just hit something really. We are really trying. We're not in the radio business anymore.
Right.
We're in the content business.
The content business, yeah.
You know, and so as the digital and the legacy begin to merge, there's a lot more opportunities for reggae artists and the guys who couldn't get played.
Right.
You know.
Now somebody hit Tony Carr said Derek Harriott. Yeah, Derek Harriott birthday is February 6th. You know what I mean? February seems to be the month.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm see if I can get that transfer to February, because February look like a hot month. So, but so I'll call the calendar people. I'll see what they have to say. But definitely, I would love to. I hope you guys are getting are recording your contents and putting them on podcasts and so forth, because I do a lot of time on the road, and there's nothing for me like being able to dial into something that's here. Again, content. I love music and the whole nine, but I ain't trying to hear the same thing over and over and over and over. And you can't kill me with the baby. Dope artists and everything, but you can't keep killing me with the baby. I need to hear some other stuff. You mentioned D Brown earlier, Stan, my favorite artist all time. I tell people this all the time. Bob Marley's the king. Bob Marley's the greatest. But if I got my last money, my last savings account, and I'm gonna buy the catalog, I'm taking D Brown all day, right? That's my guy.
Can I say something real quick about my friend? Because this is the guy who used to come drag me out of class at Michael when he got kicked out of school from hanging out with the Falcons the night before, and he used to come have us go shoot bird and all the rest of it.
Cool, you know.
Dennis Brown of his generation is singularly the most influential singer of his generation.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, he shaped reggae vocals in ways that a lot of others didn't. Now, his peers Alton and Ken and all that, those were outstanding. You know, we don't even have to say anything. Right. But he was right beside them. As Alton said, the kid was just right beside us, and he was never intimidated by it. Dermot also like to say he was the touchstone of Jamaican music. As my friend Roddy Manning from Boom T said, he brought the Jamaican style to a song.
Wow.
And I have a sister, a little sister, a little attorney in Washington, who the only reggae music she play in her car is Dennis Brown. Wow. And nobody else exists for her. Wow. So Cherie, Antoinette Smith, big up, because we're talking about your boy Dennis Brown. And I miss him. Man. I miss him a lot.
Dennis is the man. Dennis brings a reverence to music that I've never heard before. And anytime I speak of Dennis, I tell people, it's not about the best reggae singer. Dennis is amongst one of the best singers. All right.
Sidney, could you tell him what NPR 50 best singer, where Dennis was that Dennis was on NPR's 50 best singers of the last decade, along with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, I don't remember where he ranked in it, but he was among
NPR. Okay, so just so you know, when you say that, there is empirical evidence to back up what you're saying, G. Cole. I would like to put that out here so people, when they just think it's just because Dennis was a humble little youth, and as him said to me, I never know nothing about no king of crown prince, but just love sing.
Right.
There's a song called Old Man River.
Oh man.
That was a classic here. And Dennis, if you can turn that into a reggae song, then you're special. Very special.
Go ahead.
Say about him. Ibu will say, listen, the thing I liked about Dennis Brown, him can't sing anything from dinner music to Revolution.
Yeah.
And when he got it, he owned it.
Right.
He owned it. Whether it's Wichita Lionsman or Old Man River or Silhouette or Revolution or Promised Land, look at that gamut. Just if you know anything about singing, look at that gamut that he covered, and covered it well. I used to tease people that Dennis Brown could have sing Obla Di Obla Da A B C D E F G and make it sound like a hit song. That's how good that.
Lighter one more time. But you know, it's amazing. We talk about Dennis Brown the way we do, and I could go on talking about Dennis Brown for days. Dennis Brown, to me, you mentioned Old Man River. I have a lot of artists that I love, right? From today's legends to legends past to upcoming people who are prolific in terms of spitting out music, Prince, Michael Jackson, whomever. Dennis Brown has never missed. Your favorite artist of any genre, anytime has had a miss, has had a tune it upon. All right, man, listen to tune because I am still, you know what I mean? Because I'm an artist. I have never heard a D Brown song that I would consider a miss. And you mentioned Old Man River. You know, when people talk about Dennis Emmanuel Brown, they talk about most of the more popular, the godlike genius of D Brown, the incomparable, you know what I mean? All the compilations and stuff like that. There's an album out there called Good Vibrations, which I have on vinyl. Has the Old Man River on there. It's about 80% cover, right? Probably only 2 originals on it. When I say masterpiece,
because you got to remember the song, you know, that when Paul Robeson did that, nobody would try that here after that.
Right.
And this guy from Jamaica took it and put his own spin on it and wrapped his arm around it. I mean, you have to be a special talent to be able to do that.
Yeah, and we don't discredit that. We never ever, for those watching, we'll never discredit the originals and the creators and so forth. But I give you a perfect example. I'm a huge fan of Lionel Richie and the Commodores. But I'm gonna tell you this: if I'm Lionel Richie, after Dennis Brown sing "Easy," I ain't doing it again. I'm gonna let it be. I'm gonna let it be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much from near and far. Tony Carr said D Brown is my guy too. Jonah Marie, happy birthday when it comes. She's celebrating her birthday this month. Ed Robinson said, I really singing, but Lynn say, hear me. D Brown could sing the phone book, and I'm in it. All right, I'm in it. So that's just what it is. Gentlemen, I want to sincerely thank you. We have a lot of more things to talk about. I'd love to have you all back on because it's reggae month, and there's a lot of things going on. We got to get into the radio side of the thing. We got to get into the artistic side of the thing, the journalism side of the thing, because they all coexist. And without each cog in that wheel, it ain't turning, right? So I love to have that convo. But again, I thank you both so very much.
Thank you for having me. And we've got a lot of work to do.
Yes.
And this is getting it started.
Absolutely.
And thank you again. Thank you very much. And folks, if you really want to continue the Dennis Brown, Bob Marley discussion, I have several pieces I've done on Jamaicans.com on both of them. So just go dig it up and read it. So the next time you hear us talking about them, you know what we're talking about. But thank you, G. Cole. Virgin is a blessing. And keep up the good work. You're really...
Thank you.
I enjoy watching you. I enjoy watching you and listening to you, my brother. So keep
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen, listening from near and far. We got to go. We're about 41 minutes over our time, but that's what we do. We take over stuff. If D Brown can't take over the charts, damn it, we taking over your airwaves. It is what it is. I believe it with this one. Gentlemen, thanks. I'm going to leave them with this song. It's called Black Beauty. It's a new single from an artist by the name of Mark Johnson, M-A-R-Q, and I'm going to drop this. Gentlemen, thanks again. I appreciate you both. Blessings.
Yo, you don't know I'm Mark with the Q, yeah. Black woman, you win. Long time. It's more than the color of your skin. It's everything. No joke.
That was Stan. That was Sydney.
Black beauty. Yeah, the real cutie.
Conversation was lovely.
What's a way you look good in your skin? Father God give you enough melanin. You are black beauty.
Tony Carr, thank you so much. You next.
Really and truly.
Julian, what up?
What a way you look good in your skin. Black woman, me I tell you, say you win. I say never feel inferior, you is an African. Nobody no superior, so listen me home.
Large up Ed Robinson.
Follow from the head down to the ground.
Samara, thank you.
Melon cocoa butter trunk. Me say what a pretty melanin. And your quality so genuine. Sweeter than a mother young. Told me I beg you don't follow now. You are black beauty. You're the real cutie. What's a way you look good in your skin?
UK. Touchdown in Montego Bay. Heading to Ocho Rios, to the curls and turns of Fern Gully, to the green hills of Walker's Hood. One DJ, G. Cole, with a homegrown show. Hey, G. Cole, you smashing it.
A big one, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get up out of here, all right? I want to say thank you all so very, 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 very much. Was a blast. I really got to go. I really got to go. I really got to go.
Nakikinig sa música Homegrown with G. Cole.
Estás escuchando Homegrown con G. Cole.
您现在正在收听的是 Homegrown with G. Cole.
You're listening to Homegrown with G. Cole.
Yo, you don't know I'm Mark with the Q, you know. Black woman, you win, long time. It's more than the color of your skin. It's everything. No joke.
You are black beauty. You're the real deal cutie. What a way you look good in your skin. Father God give you enough melanin. You are black beauty. Really and truly. What a way you look good in your skin. Black woman, me I tell you, say you win. I say never feel inferior, you is an African. Nobody knows you. Yeah. You color from the head down to the ground. Shades of chocolate caramel.
That's all you get. That's all you get.
I say what a pretty melody.
That's all you get.
And your quality surgeon.
Kill a large job.
Sweet melody, no bother you.
Matter of fact, who want to see a Bounty Killer interview?
You don't know follow now. You are black beauty. You're the real deal cutie. What a way you look good in your skin. Father God give you enough melanin. You are black beauty. Really and truly. What a way you look good in your skin. Black woman, me I tell you, say you win.
Uptown, downtown, make you tell me on the zone. When they tell you, say you're older than an English phone. Melanin a pop, you in your own zone. Black woman, yo, you make me feel proud.
That's why me have to sing comfortable in your own skin. Smoother than a gelatin. African princesses, you got everything. Are you me give me rating? Stop rating. You are black
boy, them yellow look like some Benz and some Lexus and some big on the G.
What a way you look good in your skin. Father God give you enough melanin.
Spring and summer. No motion.
What a way you look good in your skin. Black woman, me I tell you, say you win.
The mommy figure remind me of the Benz and the Lexus and the Beamer. To all this girl would be my pleasure. She's a precious like the gold living on me church up.
Caramel and cocoa butter drunk. I say what a pretty melanin.
Cut ya, try to get the show cut down.
Quality surgeon.
Killer, ladies and gentlemen.
Sweet melody.
Gotta big up Hope.
You told me I beg you don't follow.
Jarena.
Beauty.
Wagwan Matthew.
You feel cutie.
Kate and them girl baby father.
What a way you look good in your skin. Father God give you enough melanin. You are black beauty.
What up, Mish?
Really and truly.
What up, Amari?
What a way you look good in your skin. Black woman, me I tell you, say you win.
Gotta get up out of here. Thank y'all so much for rocking, man. Appreciate y'all big time, all right? Remember, Homegrown with G. Cole's available on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Radio.com, YouTube, wherever you listen to music, we are there, all right? We listen to some great music. We talk to some great people. Check it out. Hit us up on social media at MyGCole, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and this weird place called Clubhouse. I don't know nothing about it. I'm getting on. It's a bunch of crazy people talking crazy things, but I like it, all right? Clubhouse. Check me out. I gotta go, though, all right? Thank you so much.